Open up the select board meeting of Tuesday, September 23rd. Tonight, this is a remote meeting. There was a plumbing emergency at Town Hall, which caused Town Hall to be closed to the public. So in response to that, we made this remote only. So with that, let's do a roll call vote of the select board members present.
Arnold here.
Nell here.
Stevens here.
Riola here. And I'm sure when David arrives, he can announce himself. Let me run through the agenda that we'll be covering tonight. We'll start with community input, followed by appointment and resignations. We'll do a special town meeting update and discussion with moderator Wayne Davis, and we'll also have the opportunity to discuss the articles that we expect to be presented at special town meeting. We're going to talk about the town election fire station design ballot and hopefully approve that question. Then we'll meet with with Brian Waterson of the school committee to discuss 2025-2026 goals. And as a agenda note, we're going to move the discussion and update on anti-discrimination efforts to our next meeting on October 7th. 9:15, we're scheduled to talk about the trust fund working group to approve the charter drafted by Christine, and also review and approve the appointments. After that, approval of one-day alcohol permit applications. There's 2 of those. Town administrator report, warrant and minutes, cemetery deeds, liaison reports, and lastly, community input. So with that, we'll open it up to community input. And I'd like to recognize that tonight is the second night of Rosh Hashanah. And so to all those who celebrate, Shana Tova, and have a sweet new year. Does anyone out there in the internet have any comments for the community? Just raise your hand if you do. All right. Seeing none, we will move on to appointments and resignations. In the packet, there are 3 proposed motions. The first for the CPC. I don't know, Barney, do you want to just speak with that one as?
Sure. The Community Preservation Committee met on Friday night, and we discussed the application that Karen Panico submitted to fill the position of the member at large on the CPC, and we unanimously recommended her for that position. She's been following the CPC for the mosquito, and many of us know her from other volunteer activities in town. So we think she'd be a good addition.
Barney, I see this term ends June 30th. Does she intend to continue after June, do you think?
Yeah, you know, I'm not quite sure why we have it this way, but all of the CPC terms, they're just for a year.
Okay.
So they end, June 26th, and then if the people that want to re-up get another year after that. So yes, I think she would want to continue.
Okay, just a note, David Modell has arrived. David, if you just want to announce yourself, that would be great.
Modell's here.
Thank you, David. Any discussion, or does someone want to make a motion on the appointment of Karen to the CPC?
I move to appoint Karen Panico of 187 Tophet Road as the citizen at large member of the Community Preservation Committee with a term to end June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Arnold, aye.
Modell, aye.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Viola, aye. Motion passes. The next appointment was for Tal Rotman as a member of the Safety Committee, term to end June 30th, 2028. Does anyone have any commentary on this applicant or appointment? No, they came recommended from the Safety Committee though, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Would you like me to make a motion?
please, thank you.
I move to appoint Tal Rotman of 387 Autumn Lane as a member of the Safety Committee with a term to end June 30th, 2028.
I second that.
Any more discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell, aye.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, I.
Viola, aye. And lastly, we have an appointment for the ESC, and I see Christina out there. This is, I know we had gotten the note from Christina indicating the ESC support of this. Christina, do you have any brief comments that we should know about on this one, or just a quick word of support?
Oh, thanks. Nothing prepared. She would just make a great addition to our committee. She's energetic and passionate, and yeah, we fully support it.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Any additional discussion, or if someone wants to make a motion?
I move to appoint Kriya. How do you say your name, Christina?
It's Kira Pratt.
Kira.
Oh,
Okay, but this is spelled correctly here?
Kyra.
Kyra. Okay. With the
Thank
amendment
you.
to her spelling, I appoint Kira Prats of 394 River Road as a member of the Environmental Sustainability Committee with a term to end June 30th, 2026.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell, aye.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, I.
Aye. I think that concludes the appointments we were asked to make tonight. I don't know, Ryan, was there anything within the town we should know about at this point? Okay, great. And Wayne is here, so we can move on to talk about the special town meeting update and discussion. So first, we wanted to talk about meeting logistics with the moderator, Wayne Davis. And Wayne, I know you had sent out the memo or the document that we have in our packet, and we'll certainly talk about that. I'm also wondering tonight from a higher level, I've gotten one question with questions from the community asking what time will this start and some other logistic things. So I'm wondering tonight, I know, we've talked about, or we're committed to the Sunday. Do we want to officially designate a start time tonight so we can start publicizing that and allowing people to plan around that?
I thought that months ago you had decided on 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So that's what I've been telling everyone.
Okay. No,
Yes, if that's in question, unless someone has a compelling reason to go otherwise, and I know the town meeting study committee had thought about it long and hard and come up with 1 o'clock. So I think that just stick with that.
Okay. Is there anything we need to do as a select board for that start time, or is that just something that's set?
Well, it just when you sign the warrant, that's when it's officially done. But as far as letting the public know, the mosquito will report it. I think they have been reporting it, so
Okay,
should be fine.
great. So 1 o'clock, and then do you want to move in to talk about the document you provided us and your thoughts on how you plan to run the meeting, and the process that you're taking, and maybe start with that, the process you're taking between now and town meeting to receive input, allow public to provide input. Just walk us through that, and then we can get into the specifics.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Scott. And maybe if Ryan, if you could just put the memo up on the screen so that members of the public can see it. So we have, quite an unusual situation with the MBTA Communities Act zoning proposals, because we're going to have to choose between multiple proposals. So there will be at least 2, probably 3. The planning board from time to time has considered maybe they should even do 4. I think it will likely be 3, but we'll all wait and see. So we had to take that into account. We had to be concerned about the number of people who might show up. The fact that we also have the other articles on the special town meeting warrant, the fire station, the demolition delay bylaw, in and of themselves are also potentially long and complex. So with that in mind, I believe you had, the select board had earlier determined, on advice of the town meeting study committee, which I am on, and I agree with this advice, that we just devote Sunday to the MBTA zoning, and we get it wrapped up then. We'll prepare for up to 1,000 people. This is something that Ryan had mentioned several meetings ago. This particular legislation has brought out some very large numbers in other towns, and so the lesson is be prepared. Going back 20 years, we have only reached the 450 level, and that was just for school funding projects. So if we get a massive turnout, we think 1,000 is probably the upper limit. And that means that we would have to use, in addition to the cafeteria in the school, we would also use the gym as an overflow room. So we're working on the logistics. I'm doing this with Ryan and other members of his staff and at the school to make sure that we've got everything lined up. Town clerk has already arranged to have additional poll pads so that the check-in can go as efficiently as it will need to be. And so I think all of that is moving forward nicely. We will also have to rent additional electronic voting clickers, and we're requesting the company that provided them, Meridia, that they actually staff it. It's as you all well know, Carlisle does not, at least in town hall, have dedicated IT staff. With that many people, we need to have it done right and just let the people who really know how to do it take care of it. So all of that is in motion, and I won't. Are there any questions just purely about those logistics? And Ryan may also have something to add there. I don't know.
Are we doing anything special to giving guidance to people of arriving early, or do you have a sense of, if typically people tend to arrive toward the beginning of the start of town meeting? Obviously, if we have 1,000
Yes.
people show up within 10 minutes.
Yes, we will certainly be encouraging people to do that. And as we had discussed when we reviewed the last town meeting, our quorum is 150. As soon as we hit 150, we're going to start. And so, I hope, and the better seats will be for those who come earlier.
Yeah.
So we will certainly do our best to publicize that.
Is there going to be like a doors open time that we can include? Because I don't know if people know when they can get in. If they want to show up a half hour early, can they get in and register? Is it an hour early?
Good question. I think that's something that Ryan and I should take up with the clerk, because she's the one who's responsible for checking people in, and we've got it. Unfortunately, the good and bad is that the inflow to the school auditorium and cafeteria is somewhat constricted. So I know she's been thinking about how to make that happen. I don't personally have the details, but that's something that the three of us can work on.
So Wayne, how many extra iPads will there be? I mean, how many check-in stations are you planning on?
The clerk told me that she's planning to get 6.
6 additional.
I believe 6 total.
Typically have 2.
And
correct?
if there are any concerns about that, I think you should go directly to her. That's her
Okay.
area of responsibility. But I knew you'd be curious, so I checked in with her before tonight.
Wayne, are you planning to also set it up so that people can participate from Benfield?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Anything else on the logistics? Okay, so then let me get into what I covered in this memo. And while as I say in the beginning, while I wrote this primarily with the MBTA, the zoning article in mind, I will, as I go through it, just mention where there are aspects that are applicable to the other articles that we'll be considering. So first of all, the objective, there are a couple of objectives here, and we want to have everyone have a fair and reasonable opportunity both to make their views known and to try to influence other people, as well as for people to expose themselves to the arguments so they can learn about them. A general rule of thumb is that a third of the people come in with their mind made up yes, a third with their mind made up no, and a third they're uncertain when they walk into the room, and they decide. And also some percentage of the people who were yes and no when they walked in actually change their mind by being exposed to their neighbors. With the complexity and number of proposals, I think the degree of uncertainty and potential for people to be influenced by what they learn is even higher. So we really want to have a good, solid debate that is focused on the issues, that gets people's questions answered and so forth, and that minimizes any time on procedural wrangling or confusion and that sort of stuff. So there are a lot of things that we're trying to do to make the discussions be as meaty as they can possibly be, and also be efficient. One of the things that is particularly important, and that's always true, and it will be true on all the big articles for this special town meeting. The MBTA, because we have multiple proposals, is going to require a specialized voting process. And I've been
Okay.
thinking about this for months, and if there are any geeks out there in the community who are really into decision analysis, the concept here is incentive compatibility. We're going to try to have a voting process that just encourages people to vote their honest preferences, that there's little to be gained by them trying to game the system and vote strategically. And so put a lot of thought into how to get that done. And I think we're getting very close. I had the opportunity to share my ideas at the planning board meeting a couple of weeks ago. Some people at that meeting and afterwards came to me with some very helpful comments and questions. And so what I'm presenting tonight is actually a refinement with some changes that were responsive to what I heard a couple of weeks ago. And I can, in the weeks ahead, if I get any more feedback, these processes can also evolve. But obviously what I will need to do is that before we get to the end, I will publish on the website and in the Mosquito the clear and final version of the procedures. Now, getting to the before town meeting, the form of the warrant article for the MBTA zoning is going to be very particular. Instead of saying that we've got 3 proposals, so it's Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. In fact, it's going to be a single article that says we're going to choose one. And that's very important because it's going to set us up for how we can do the voting in a way that gets us to only one answer as a yes or no, up or down vote. Something that David Modell has been talking about with you for a number of months, we're also going to try, and that's to see if we can have agreed facts up front. It's not in your memo, but I've now been able to schedule an agreed facts meeting for October 23. And basically, I'm inviting any organized groups out there. The planning board will send a representative, and if any individuals want to show up, they can show up. But I'm going to ask that people come together, and we're going to try to sit down and come up with a set of agreed facts that everyone can take as given, and we don't need to debate them. Okay, that way we can focus on what are the policy issues and the policy choices, as opposed to debating whether facts are true or false. Um, since this will literally need to be a drafting session, I do not want to have a large number of people there because it won't get done. So any groups that send people, I'm asking that they will only send one person, that we do it through pre-registration. We'll also ask that everyone, which would include the planning board, submit at least 2 days in advance draft facts that they'd like to see included in this. And that way we'll at least have a chance to look over everything in advance, see if there is common ground and, reach some list. It may only be 3 facts, it may be a dozen, I don't know. But if we can do it, it will certainly help make the debate a little bit more efficient. And I'm very concerned with efficiency. If we have 800 or 1,000 people, I don't want to waste time. So that's how
Wayne,
the agreed facts will run. Yes.
on the agreed facts, is it going to be like pre-published, after this drafting session, or is it something that
Oh,
you're going to announce and review with the audience on the day of?
so uh, I would expect that we'd be able to get that published in advance. I don't know how far in advance. Certainly could get on the website. Will it be done in time to hit the mosquito that is published on Friday before the Sunday meeting? I can't, we've never tried this before. So it's difficult to predict. We will certainly try to publish it. And the idea certainly would be that at the outset, we have a brief presentation where it would be a handout and we'd go over it briefly so that people know what it is. So it should be well publicized through all of that. Okay. Any other questions on anything I've covered so far? The other thing is that on Thursday, October, and also I should add, I don't know if there's going to be any contended facts on the fire station or the demolition delay bylaw. I don't know if there are going to be any groups that organize in opposition to those or to suggest alternatives. If they emerge, it may make sense to try this on those and, to involve the historical commission or whoever from the, in terms of the fire station. But we'll just have to wait and see. I would just say to the public, if people want to try this, we can try it. So that's possible. On Thursday, October 16th, there will be another public meeting. This will be the sort of the moderators meeting. What I will do is, after getting feedback from you tonight and hearing other people from the public over the next week or so, I will publish my final draft version of the procedures in advance of this meeting of October 16th. Then we'll go over them on the 16th. I'd like to have represented someone who's representing the proponents of each of the articles to be at this meeting. And we'll just go through how's the meeting going to run, answer any questions. And if people want to get into any gnarly detail with me on the procedures and take one last attempt to convince me to change something I've proposed, that will be their opportunity to, or I should say their final opportunity. People can always email me before then. Okay. And then the last thing, and this one is really important because this is a change from what we normally do. And that is to say that for the zoning article in particular, because it is so technically complex and there is the need to have the planning board's consultants analyze whether any proposed amendments might affect the compliance status of the final article with the statutory requirements, we're going to require that any amendments be submitted in advance with a deadline of noon on Tuesday of October 28th. So there will be no floor amendments unless someone spots a typo or something minor that we can fix that isn't a big deal. But other than that, there will not be any floor amendments allowed on the MBTA zoning.
Wayne, do we know when the planning board intends to have the final bylaw language available?
October 20th.
Okay.
Hey, Wayne.
Yes.
Hi, it's Barney. I don't know if you're aware of the planning board's discussion last night. Just think maybe it's relevant to know that this is a possibility that they had submitted the 3 different options to the state, and 2 of the 3 have been rejected. And so the only one that they say is acceptable and meets the act is the single site option. And Ryan, I don't know if you want to mention that it was confirmed today by council that the state is firm on that opinion. Or anyway, that's my understanding, that the council
Okay, well,
is checked out. And so I know the planning board plans to try to see if there's any wiggle room, but yeah, I just thought that you should be aware that it may end up being the single site. And at the moment, I believe there's 6 different single site locations being considered by the planning board. So it might be a very different scenario.
well, thank you for sharing that one with me. I had not been aware of that. So we'll deal with it as we can.
Just to chime in, I in their meeting last, I think they got this late last week. They said they still intend to bring options. So I think the what you described as the kind of incentive compatibility process, if there's multiple options, even if there's sites, probably still applies. And Barney, did you say that they had mentioned last night that they were going to see if they could get compliance through a couple of the cluster options? Did you say that they got a response today on that?
Well, Ryan, do you want to comment? Are you hearing this?
Well, I guess I would say, for purposes of tonight's discussion, it doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
If there is, if they only present a single proposal, the only thing that changes is that voting will look like it conventionally does. It will be a single up or down vote. I think it will still be very helpful to have the agreed facts. We're still going to have the moderators meeting, and we're still going to require amendments to be in advance because there is still going to be a compliance issue. And as I think we discussed in the review of the last meeting, floor amendments are always potentially messy, and with zoning, they're especially messy and difficult. And I think it's a consensus of town council and other moderators whose opinion that I respect quite a lot in the state, that it's quite reasonable, so long as it's published well in advance, which we're doing, that we're requiring amendments in advance, that's a reasonable procedure. So that all will stay. But obviously we'll look at what happens, and we'll finalize it when we need to.
I believe that they intend to provide, as Scott mentioned, I think, the single site cluster, I believe, is what the state said is the only acceptable of our proposed methods.
Single
But
site, not cluster. It's just
single, I'm
site.
sorry, a single site, but does not mean a single building. I guess a cluster to me
No,
is
it means a single parcel of land would have all
right, a single
95
parcel of
units
land,
on it.
right?
Okay.
Right, but within that, and I think 6, I don't know if it's 6, but there's sites that are bigger, littler. The Reichenbach site has like one big building, like apartment building. Other ones would have like condos, I guess. So I think they intend to propose some number of those, right? Am I wrong on that? Do they tend to they want to be site specific, or is it just the zoning? I think they have to pick places, right?
My understanding is, yeah, from a member of the planning board that is actually on the COAHS, and at their board meeting this morning, he was describing that if it is a single site is the only acceptable option to the state, that the town would vote on which of the six
Yeah,
or
right.
5 locations they are considering for that.
Right, exactly. So I think it's maybe fewer variables in total, but let's say they present 6 or 5 or something. They probably won't have that many, but they may have a number of them. And I expect that there will be fairly heated debate about the relative merits, particularly the ones that are categorically different, right?
That's why I'm saying it doesn't, for
I agree. No, I agree with you. I
tonight's
think it doesn't matter.
discussion,
Right.
it doesn't matter.
No, I agree. I agree. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. There's a down selection. So, yeah, I kind of, the reason I'm bringing it up is because there's also consideration of can we get done faster, but I don't think so. I think there's going to be plenty of galvanized opposition to whatever, locations are selected. So I expect a long meeting regardless, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I mean, if the one thing, just for all of us to be aware of, is that if the planning board goes in the direction that you thought it would be, actually be a shorter meeting, then you'd have to consider the 2-day model and say, do we want to try
Right.
to get
But
it
that's
done in
why
one
that's
day?
why that's why I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But if it's X sites, it doesn't matter that they're single sites each. There's X parcels.
There's
and
X proposals and we need to work through.
Right, and you're gonna have to down select in some manner and get to
Exactly.
an up or down vote at some point. So, and then there was a fairly not heated, maybe too strong. There was a robust debate yesterday about the replacement candidate on the planning board, and the subtext of that, I think, was that one of the candidates, I think, is sort of a pox on all your houses position, and so there will be that, right? There will be that. Like none of these all stink. We're gonna just punt, right? So okay. So I guess I remain in my own mind, and I think Scott, that's one of the things you wanted to touch base on today is, I think the 2-day model still is the right thing, and if by some chance we get done in time for everybody to go home and watch a football game, then great, right? I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. So if I can move on to the meeting itself, we'll start at 1. We will, and there will be very little in the way of preliminaries, because it's a short, it's a special town meeting, and so we will fairly quickly get into the discussion. And so if we have some agreed facts, they will be presented up front. Then however many proposals we have, those will get presented. And item 7 on my memo there, and maybe we could put that back up for people to see. One of the things I've long had a policy, at least in theory, and it's only has been taken advantage of once or twice over the last 10 years, is that if there's organized opposition to something, a group can request, I don't necessarily have to agree to it, but in general, I'm open to a group requesting permission to make an opposition presentation that would be longer than the usual 2 minutes allowed. I'm still open to that on this, though not knowing what the proposals are, and since opposition to one may be being in favor of another, it's not clear to me that I'll be able to figure out that. So I'm open to it, but I'm not totally committed to actually doing it. We'll have to see how it shakes out, but that may be a possibility there. I should also mention that my standard policy that's referenced there, that I've had for the last 10 years or so, that also would be available if there's anyone who wants to organize in opposition, whether it's to the fire station or to the demolition bylaw. So that's a possibility, and I would just direct people to the memo that's on the website.
So
We will.
Wayne, I have
Yes,
a clarification question.
sure.
So, okay, so you have each of the proposals, however many there are, and they'll be presented. Is it, they present, say there's 3 options still, just, anchoring to
Yes.
that number. do they present option one and then any sort of rebuttals get up and talk?
No,
And
no,
then
no,
we
no.
proceed on to option two, and then any sort of rebuttals get up and talk, and then option three? Or is it planning board presents 1, 2, 3, and then any sort of rebuttals all in one mass?
That's part of why I'm leaving it open, because I just um I think all three proposals need to get out on the table. Whether we even allow opposition, then I would probably just do them thereafter. But you know, we're not gonna have like 6 opposition presentations. You know, if there were maybe 1 or 2, we could do it. If it looks like it's going to be more than that, then there won't be any, and people will just need to speak from the floor, as is usual. Okay.
So Wayne, in terms of a typical
yes.
town meeting, is each of the proposals kind of like it got its own 5 to 7 minute block, or you like how are you managing the timing of that?
Um, I I'm in discussion with the planning board. I've raised that with them. And they're not totally sure, because you know, I'm sure they were surprised to be rejected from the state. So they weren't making decisions before they needed to. So now they've got a whole new set of things to figure out. I think that they were thinking that there would be some sort of baseline presentation that explains the statute, what they're trying to accomplish, and things that are applicable to the entire issue, and then go into each proposal one by one. So we just need to see how it's going to work out. In general, I like to keep presentations to under 10 minutes because people start tuning out. And if we have a series of them, that makes it even more challenging. So I'll be encouraging them to be succinct, but at the same time, we have to provide enough information that people can be informed. So that's kind of the balance that we'll try to strike. We'll then have a dedicated question period. I'm not sure how long that's going to be. I suspect it could run somewhere between half an hour to an hour. Um, and this would have a special time limit. Instead of saying 2 minutes, it would be 1 minute. You get 1 minute to ask your question, and then we'll have 1 or 2 minutes for a response, and that will be it. And then move on. So we'll try to keep that going quickly. And anyone who tries to slip some argument in won't be allowed. It's got to be a genuine question. If it's just something argumentative, I'll say, thank you, sit down, we're going to move on, we're not answering that. So all of that is to get us to the point where we can actually have a debate where everyone is reasonably well educated by the time we get to the debate. And I don't want to have the sort of situation where we sometimes have, where somebody, 45 minutes in or an hour into the debate, thinks of some interesting question to ask and poses it. Let's get that done up front. I don't know how long the debate will last. I will certainly be encouraging people not to repeat themselves. And if it sounds like we're just getting repetitive arguments, then I'll call for a vote. And if I haven't yet called for a vote, and someone wants to call the question, that's sort of if I think it's genuinely way too early, I won't accept that motion. I'll rule it out of order. But even if it's earlier than I personally would have chosen, but there's been a good long debate, if someone calls the question, then we'll take a quick vote and see if people are ready to vote. Now, when we get to the voting, I'm gonna focus on the 3 proposal variations, since that was what I was before tonight was what I was expected was most likely. If it's more than 3, we just add some more at the front end. If it's only 2, then we can reduce the front end a little bit. But 3 that maybe let me actually flip it around a little bit and start from the end. Okay. What we would like to do at the very end is have a straight up or down vote on one proposal. So that at the end of the day, it looks just like the normal thing that we would do on a zoning article at town meeting. Here's the proposal. Do you want it? Yes or no? And that will be the only binding vote. That will be the vote that counts. Okay. The question then is, how do we get to that, to select down, to use David's terminology? So the way we're going to do it is when we have the vote, using the electronic voting devices, the clickers, we'll just take a sequential vote on all three proposals. Do you like proposal A? Yes or no? Do you like proposal B? Yes or no? Do you like proposal C? Yes or no? Everyone gets to vote however they like on all three. If you like all three and would be willing to see any of them adopted, then you vote yes on all three. If you don't want any of them adopted, you vote no on all three. If you like one a lot, could live with one, but really hate the third one, then you can vote 2 yeses and 1 no, or you can vote 1 yes and 2, whatever people want. The whole idea is to give people the option on that first round to express their true preferences without worrying about how anyone else is going to vote. The reason that I'm going to not not announce the results of those individual votes until all of them are taken is so that we don't have any gamesmanship and jockeying for which proposal gets voted first. That way, everyone is just incentivized to vote their true preferences. After that, then we'll drop the bottom proposal. If one of the proposals got over 50% and 2 did not, then we'll drop the bottom 2 and we'll just move directly to the up or down vote on the one that got greater than 50%. And that's the process that we'll use to get to that final up or down vote. Questions on that?
So it's kind of it's not ranked choice voting, but it's a variation of that in its end result, right?
It's a variation of that in its end result. I think a number of people have likened it to a runoff, and I think that is fair. It is a runoff partly, but it
Well, it's
changes at
not,
the end, because
yeah, except
normally in
that,
a runoff election, you're choosing between 2 candidates. Here, because we're a legislative assembly, the final vote will not be between 2 different proposals. It will be up or down on.
well, proposal
all
meaning nothing
proposals.
is a proposal anyway, I guess. So
Yeah, fair enough.
so 2 comments. One is in a runoff, the preliminary or the primary, let's call it, or whatever, before the runoff, you only can choose one candidate. You can't choose. So the reason I say it's a little more like ranked choice voting is that you're giving people the opportunity to vote yes and multiple things. You're not
That's
saying
why
first,
I've
second, or
actually,
third, but you're
right, and
right.
that's why I'm only calling it preliminary and not
Okay, all right.
actually calling it runoff or ranked choice.
Yeah, no, I
because
agree with that.
those are not 100% accurate, and I don't want to
Okay,
mislead people.
so let me ask a different question, Wayne. You're giving a buy to the final to a proposal that means none of the above. It is still a proposal. It's just not a proposal that builds any units, but it gets a buy to the final. It kind of gets an unfair
Yeah.
advantage.
I'm not sure I would call it an unfair advantage. I think it makes it look like the idea is to bring it down to the way we typically would have a zoning amendment. And it gives, the other thing that's going on by this process is that I'm predicting that people are going to be influenced by what they see and what they hear. And so, depending, part of what people are trying to gauge is what's acceptable to my neighbors, what's acceptable to me. And, some people are, weigh one a lot more heavily than others. And I'm trying to give everyone the opportunity to vote however they want and come up with something that represents, in effect, the best consensus choice that the community could come up with for itself.
Wayne, have you talked to other moderators, or do you have some experience with this, or any, have other towns done it this way with multiple options? I'm just curious if it's been tried or.
So this the particular details have not been done quite this way. And I'm not aware of another town that on the MBTA or on a similar zoning thing brought multiple proposals forward at the same time. And often where it has been more frequently done is in the context of budgetary discussions. And typically what's done there is they do sequential voting with the most expensive budget first. And if that doesn't pass, then they go to the next lower one and the next lower one and so forth. So this particular thing hasn't been tried, but it's pretty close to what has been done in those processes. I was concerned that since it's not obvious what the sequence should be, as it is in a budgetary one, I was concerned that if we revealed the vote after taking each one, then there are potential gamesmanship as to which one do you vote first. So this is the best I could come up with trying to think of something where the incentive is for people to truly vote whatever is in their heart and in their mind as to what they think is best for the community, and not to spend a lot of mental cycles trying to game the system so that the vote comes out at the end of the day the way they wanted, because they fooled someone by thinking through the voting process more cleverly.
Question, Wayne,
But I certainly would invite you or anyone out there listening, if you can figure out a way to poke a hole in this and show me how it could be gamed, I would love to hear from you.
when I have a question, and I don't know if it's a permutation you've thought through. If in the final vote something emerges with a slight advantage and it goes to the town, and for whatever reason it gets voted down, are we done for the night, or would you ever put forward the second most vote getter as another option, just to see if for some reason, like just the combination of voting, so it gets to that final vote, if is it one up or down on the last option, and if that fails we all go home and come back and try to get in compliance at a later, or would we ever go down the line, so to speak, and see if any of the options can get a majority in the final vote?
I hadn't thought about that one specifically. There is this motion for reconsideration that is available, and it's generally one that a lot of mischief can be caused with it, but it's still valuable and important to have in some circumstances. And I have to say that in this particular circumstance, where the town has put so much effort into trying to come up with something that, let's face it, the reason it has been hard is because it's technically hard given our geography, our water, and it's politically hard because people have different views. And so under those circumstances, if the choice is going home totally empty-handed or seeing if one might gain support, I think I'd likely be more open to a motion for reconsideration under those circumstances.
So Wayne, I mean, Scott asked a variation of my question. In other words, it's the bye to the final question. If it is just up or down on the last one, and if it's down, it's bye-bye. Then you did give option null, whatever that option number is, abide in the final. And if you reopen it, you didn't. But if you didn't, why don't you just put none of the above in the preliminary rounds and see where that goes? Because, it does bias. I mean, I tend to believe that the people who don't want it aren't going to want any option. They don't care what option. They're not going to want it. And then the people who do believe that we need to comply will seriously weigh those various things and think about, what has the less environmental impact and so forth. So I don't think it would matter, but I am concerned that we're kind of we're giving a little bit of extra weight to the none of the above thing. And the antidote to me is not to reopen it, but to make sure that the planning board or whoever gives very clear reasons why a solution is needed to comply. I mean, that's the point that I would make. It's like we need to comply, and these are the reasons why, because the cost of not compliance is this, 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 and this. And to get everybody at least that's, prone to want to do that, and anybody who's on the fence about doing that, give those people a reason to say, yes, I really need to consider the options that have a solution in them. Then I'm okay, but I think that's the slippery slope. I don't think reopening, I don't know, that's kind of, I don't know. Yeah, that's my view anyway.
So
You
Wayne,
you make a good point, David, and I will, and I had to do this at the planning board when people brought up that they wanted to have a clear up or down vote, because in effect, they actually wanted to have a none of the above option clearly available. And in part, my making this clear up or down vote at the end was to be responsive to that. So what I want to do, since it is so complicated, I hear what you're saying, David. You make a good point. I want to think it through, check in with town council, as I've been doing regularly through this whole process, because I want to make as sure as we can be that if there's any litigation afterwards on this, that it's not based on us having done something procedurally that was questionable. So I will consider it, David. It's worth looking into.
Thanks.
And again, Wayne, just to clarify, the recent step 6, 7, the proposal opposition presentations, that you're specifically talking about MBTA, correct? Just so we're clear. Or do you plan on bringing that same format to the other articles as well?
Well, certainly 6. I was just clarifying that in terms of the proposals, it's not going to be, we're going to have one proposal, debate it, and then the next one debate it, and so forth. With the other articles, presentations are always up front. Opposition presentations are always available on any article, anytime. That's been the longstanding policy. And on questions, I often do questions up front. And I will probably, actually, this particular rule of saying 1 minute per question, 1 per answer, if that works out well this time, I may impose that as a general rule for all meetings.
Okay.
So yes, all 3 of those are going to apply to this special town meeting, all of the articles.
Thank you.
so Wayne, I had a question. Just to follow on to David's point, I thought I read in the memo. Okay, so why are we having a no vote? Because we're basically voting non-compliance with law. So we're not, I think I had read that we're worried about a potential lawsuit. I mean, so how can we be sued for complying with the law? That does not strike me. Is this a realistic concern? Do I have that right? Did I read that right?
Anyone can always try to file a suit on any after
Well,
any town
sure.
action, vote by the select board, vote by the town at a town meeting. It's always possible. And so I'm not predicting that it's likely here or anything, but however this turns out, whether something is approved or not, there's always the possibility of litigation. So if a proposal is approved, then litigation is possible. And actually, I can give you a specific thing that has already been raised to me, which is that the quantum of vote required to pass here with a zoning article normally is 2/3. Under the MBTA communities statute, it is only 50%.
Hmm.
That then creates the question, okay, is this legitimately an MBTA zoning article or is it a general zoning article? And there's language on that in the statute. There's guidance from the Attorney General's office. There's other towns have grappled with it and so forth. It is my understanding from the planning board chair and the planning board administrator that they are very aware of this issue and that they only, that this is of course all prior to last night, so I don't know if their views have changed, but up until last night, my understanding was that their intention is only to make proposals that would qualify as true MBTA zoning proposals and would require 50%. I have been asked, well, suppose something's in there that actually requires 2/3. My answer to that is, if the planning board, having looked at it, having consulted town council, tells me that it's eligible, I'm going to say it's eligible. And if someone questions that, they can take it to the Attorney General, they can take it to the courts. But I'm not gonna,
Right.
But it would
I'm not
be-
gonna go get involved and second guess their expert judgment. That would be like me reviewing the language of a bonding article that bond counsel has put together and say, well, I don't think it's quite right.
Well, yes and no. I
No,
think
I'm not doing
it's
that.
a good, it's a very good question. And I think Chairman Triola, you may want to think about a final review. It doesn't need to be the whole board. I think a review with council and the planning board and Wayne, when everything's sort of set, I would take one more review with that lens of litigation. And I think if you reflect on yesterday's the first portion of the planning board meeting where they debated two different candidates, one candidate, Justin Harrison, is kind of bringing that up. He's saying, well, you're treating one group unfairly, right? You're biasing. And so, I mean, his proposed, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but impression of his, improvement, way to get around that is to basically start over, which you said we don't have time to start over. So we can't start over. But I think we have to look at, I mean, I'm making this more broadly to the select board, not to Wayne, but I think the town, we have to protect the town, right? And we have to be super careful that whatever process is not, we're mitigating any perceived bias. I can't answer about whether it's 2/3 or half, but if there's any bias in the process that unfairly targeted is too strong a word, but unfairly burdened a group over other groups, we got to just look at that. There's always going to be a loser if a particular area is zoned this way and it's perceived by the people who live there as a downgrade, so to speak. They're going to feel put upon, and that's natural, but we have to make sure that the process was like totally transparent. So I guess I don't have a real good answer, but I think it's worth your time, Scott, to kind of dive into that with maybe Sarah and Julie and council. I'm done.
Oh, anything else I can share with you? Any questions?
Do you typically interact with Sarah, Wayne, from a planning board standpoint, or Julie?
Yes, typically, what I've been doing is, I check things out with both of them, and depending on the issue, one or the other will respond.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question of, the feedback that was received, the next steps, the timing of the next steps. The question I had for them last night is we have the signing of the warrant on October 7th. We have all these, as you indicated in your process, the bylaw has to be finalized by the 20th of October. I just want to keep a careful eye on the timeline. As the situation changes and evolves, that we're going to be able to hit all those key dates.
Well, what I can tell you is that schedule that they're working off of, we had there was a coordination meeting in early September, and Julie had put together a brilliant schedule that everyone looked at, on Zoom, and everyone had it in front of them, and everyone looked at all the interdependencies, and so the schedule that they're working on, it was a refinement of what Julie had put up, and I think it's pretty solid. It's tight, but that's just the nature of where we are.
Okay. Any other questions for Wayne tonight? Again, our next meeting, we'll be signing the warrant, so that's when we'll see you next. Will you be there for that, Wayne, or no?
Rob, actually, I may not be able to make that particular one, but you really don't need me for.
Okay.
I'll have commented on drafts before then anyway.
Okay. Well, let
I
us
would
know if
just
there's anything that comes up between now and then that you need our input on.
Okay, I will get off of the video, but I will try to stay on for the audio for your following discussions. And again, I would just comment. I know there are a lot of people online. Anyone wants to shoot comments to me at moderator@carlislema.gov, you're certainly welcome to do so. I will read them all. If only 3 people write to me, I will likely answer. If 30 people write to me, I'm making no promises other than that I will read them all and consider whatever you have to say.
Thank you, Wayne.
Great. Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. So within this agenda item, we also had listed a discussion for the demolition review bylaw and/or MBTA Communities Act. I see Ben is here from the Historic Commission. So let's move on to discuss the demolition review bylaw. They presented to us at our last meeting, and subsequent to that, I know there was the open house that Travis and I believe David attended. And so one, I wanted to just check in and see, one, from Ben, if there are any updates from your end in terms of feedback or outreach that you've received. And then I'll open it up. Oh, hi, Chrissy. We'll open it up to discussion, and I'd certainly like to hear from Travis and whomever, if David was also at the open house, your impressions and thoughts. So Ben and Chrissy, is there anything we should know as a select board since we last met regarding the bylaw itself, or any feedback or outreach you've done?
Well, thanks, Scott. And I guess, thank you for having us to the select board on the 9th, and to Travis and David for coming on the 17th. I think we had a really good conversation on the 17th at the open house. There were some other community members there as well. So we are still in the mode of receiving feedback from people. We have sent out the survey in a number of different places, on the Historical Commission website. Aubrey's been helping us getting that out on the social media channels as well, which has encouraged some people to offer some more input, which is great. So another thing that we are doing as a commission is we have our monthly meetings. So we're going to be meeting on the 15th of October as our next official meeting and hearing date. We are going to be scheduling an open house for that date as well. But we're also going to be meeting in the interim as a commission on the 2nd, a business meeting to revisit the parameters of the bylaw. I think we've gotten a lot of great feedback from people that has caused us to think more about the parameters of the bylaw. And, ultimately we want to make this for the town of Carlisle. We want it to be specific to the town of Carlisle and not for just, any town USA, so to speak. And so I think we heard that loud and clear on the 17th. And we feel that it's necessary for us to convene again as much as we can between now and special town meeting to refine and revisit some of these parameters.
Were there parameters in specific when you say parameters? Are you referring to like the length of the process? Some of the things I've heard, like the significant, how you're defining.
Yes.
What are the key things that you're looking at as a commission and potentially revisiting or refining?
So I'd say the length of the review is one of the things that we are looking at as a commission, and how we can fine tune that. We're looking at the threshold for what triggers the demolition review bylaw. It's currently a 50-year rolling clock, and so we are revisiting that. There are other models that we have been evaluating as a commission, as well as defining better historical significance. I think there's been a lot of question about that. And so I think there's some fine tuning of that definition in the bylaw that is needed as well. So that is a topic of discussion for us.
And given your meeting schedule, if you meet on the 2nd, do you think is your goal of that meeting to refine the language and then send it for at that meeting? Or I mean, given the time remaining to special town meeting, obviously time's getting really tight to revisit and revise and then have it all vetted legally and all of that. So is your goal at the next meeting to make any final changes, or do you expect that process to extend to your meeting on the 15th?
I'm not sure we can say at this point. I will comment on the bylaw has since the spring been vetted by town council. So certainly this would not be the first time that they're seeing the language. It would simply be a few revisions. So I think that as the feedback is coming in, I think the visibility for this discussion has really ramped up, and we are now getting the feedback that we've been hoping for all along. And as Ben mentioned, I think the robust conversation that we were able to have at our open house last week and the continued support and review from the survey is really helping us to fine tune this at this point.
How many people came to the open house last week?
So we had 3 people attend the open house, but we have had more than 30 people respond to the survey
Since
the open house.
week.
Yeah, since the last open house, we had 30 people respond, and we've had 50 to 60, I think, previous to that.
So that's a pretty good cohort for us to be looking at on input.
Travis, I know you were at sorry, before we get into the public hearing, have you outreached to have you had feedback from any of the other committees or stakeholders within town, Board of Assessors, or anyone else involved in the process?
We're meeting with the Board of Assessors on the 30th. We're meeting with the Planning Board again on the 20th. We've met with them previously. We've talked about, we've reached out to the Affordable Housing Trust, and then, social media, mosquito, City in the Woods. Those are things that are on our radar. Others, Chrissy? I think that was the list as of right now.
hearing with the Housing Trust on the 9th of October. We're just waiting for them to confirm.
Thank
You
you.
said the planning board would be on October 20th?
Yes.
And where have they've seen this though, right? You've had
Yes.
some feedback.
Correct.
from them, right? And
Yep. We
Sarah's
presented-
on Historic Commission as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's been relaying developments on the bylaw to the planning board in the interim, but we will be officially in front of them on the 20th.
But that'll be presenting the
Formally.
final bylaw, like that won't allow
Yeah.
for feedback or additional input.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we do have the liaison to the planning board, so we do have a conduit to them in the interim.
Yeah, they're pretty busy right now.
Yes, they are.
So Travis and David, I know you were at the open house. I'm sorry I couldn't attend that. I know, what were your impressions or the points of discussion that came up from the citizen or from both of you?
Yeah, I think Ben and Chrissy have done a nice job in seeking input here, and they're working to try and reach out. I do have just kind of general concerns about, the outreach, because I've seen this with the TA bylaw, and as we try to put forward things to the town, it's really important to get this information out so that people can kind of preview it and have opinions, and it shapes into how this is, approached at town meeting. It's otherwise, I fear that it could be a long night, or have some, a lot of people may just be waking up to it. There are a lot of people focused on the MBTA bylaw right now who I think would be interested in this particular bylaw as well. So, hopefully they just continue, and it sounds like it. I think you're doing what you need to do that. And I think you've done a nice job of articulating the three kind of main points, at least that I've heard from, people I've talked to in the community, and, concerned about the age, the 50-year time horizon, and whether that's the right number. I think that a lot of people could probably rally or get supportive of a certain age when you talk about the 250th celebration that just took place, and they had in Concord what's called witness houses that were witness to the revolution, or to the event of 250 years ago, and I think there's some spectrum there where you may fall, and so I don't know if 50 years is the right number, and so I'm glad you're evaluating that. The 18 months, is a long time period to review and to have the town have the option, and I understand the rationale for wanting to have that review period, but the question is that, if someone wants to take down their garage, and is that deemed an 18-month process? I don't know. And then the last, and I think the most important one is really, and you heard this from the other person who attended, it was Alan Lewis, who was most concerned about the definition of what is significant building or structure. I mean, that's the crux of this, and really giving a total blanket to that. And I know you've worked to define it as best you can, but it really, when it talks about context of other homes by itself, or in the context of a group of buildings, it opens up the possibility that someone in a row of deck houses who wants to change their deck house to some other type of structure might not be allowed to do that. And I just think that the town needs to think about that relative to it. But you're taking all that into consideration, and I think that out of this is going to come what the town deems and what voters deem as the best thing for Carlisle. So I'm happy with your process. I think you're going through it the right way. I just hope you can get out enough meetings and enough information. David, did you have anything else?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned to Ben at the open house that I'm not sure whether it's good or bad that he's following the heels of MBTA, but I can say that the antennae of those who believe that Carlisle is adopting a much too big brothery, oversight of people's free choice. I get the sense, and this is a distillation of stuff that goes on nationally right now, right? That there's a core of people who think, who are these people? Even though we elected them, like who are they to decide that we should do X or Y? So there's going to be that in the MBTA debate. That will be a thread, I believe. That just because it comes down on high, like who are we to just accept that? We shouldn't accept that. My house, my rights, that kind of thing. So there's a possibility that spills over into this law, and the reason I bring that up is I'll take sort of Travis's points, which I agree with, in reverse order. So the first one, and the one definitely that Alan made clear, is I believe that the process in terms of evaluating which properties have historical significance needs to be codified in a much more prescriptive or documented way. The idea that there's this group called the Historical Commission who can just decide arbitrarily that this house has significance and this one doesn't, or this one does not, but it's in a group of houses that do, so it's painted by the same brush. I mean, that is ceding an awful lot of nebulous authority to a group that isn't, first of all, not elected, and secondly, is a very minor subset of the population. So the best advice I can give, I gave to Ben and Chrissy, is try to write are we writing a bylaw for this? I presume it is being written, right?
Yes, there's
That try to put as much specificity around it as you possibly can to indicate that there's a clear and not just non-arbitrary set of criteria against which the determination of a property of historical significance will be made. So that's that piece. In terms of the age of home, the 50-year mark, just because it coincides with kind of a more dramatic population increase in Carlisle and a change from these old sort of farmy kind of buildings to what we call the mid-century modern. And because we're very much a deck house community, and that whole sort of style, it's not all deck houses, but that style of building is going to capture a lot of buildings. I'm not against it. I'm sensitive to it, and I live in a deck house myself, but I think you need to carefully consider, as Travis said, nobody's going to argue with a 100-year-old house, and probably not a 75-year-old house. But a 50-year-old house is going to garner a lot of questions, and it's going to capture a lot of things. So I don't have an answer for that, but I'm just saying you just happen to pick a time when you're going to capture a fair number of houses, whereas older, if the criterion was older houses, it would be a much smaller segment and unlikely to garner a lot of opposition. The third one the first one that he mentioned, but the third thing is the 18 months. And I really think that's a long time. And the commission would do well to think about how that process can be compressed. No matter what, I mean, people are going to seize on that. And, the historical commission say, well, it's not really going to be that way. It could be expedited, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but if you put 18 months, people are going to say, well, you could take 18 months. And I think the practical consideration that Travis mentioned, or anybody else, like, hey, I want to sell my house. I need to move. I got to move. My job's moving. My mom is sick. I have to move to where she lives. I can't wait 18 months. You can't give me an 18-month cycle. So I would be very sensitive to that and see what ways you feel practically you can compress that. And I urge you to get it down, because that's going to be like a major point of opposition. So I think in theory, it's a good thing, and it nods to our, sensitivity to our cultural heritage and the need to preserve it. But in practice, the way it's written, I think it's setting itself up for a failed vote. And that's just my belief. And so I think it really needs some serious work on those details. Now, that's not particularly a reflection on the open house, but I mean, that's kind of a broad thing. And the last thing I'll say is, and I was an architecture student in college, I'm not an architect, but diversity and change, that's part of architecture. You know, if you just say, no, everybody in this street has a mid-century modern, that's it, you can't build anything else. That's actually antithetical to the whole architectural spirit. So I would urge the commission to think those things through and see if you can, A, refine the criteria, B, think really hard about the years in which they fall, and C, compress the timeline. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Add my 2 cents. Not being overly familiar with demo delay or demo review bylaws, you know, the 2 things that struck me upon kind of first review was that the definition of significant and the time frame. And I was also, you know, I wasn't aware of all the neighboring towns that also had demo delay or demo review bylaws. So I looked at some of those just to see, you know, how they define things. And I think so the bylaw you're presenting, the language in there is similar to the language that's in the neighboring towns. I think the difference to me, when I look at something like Bedford, is they use the term context of a group of buildings, but it's within the context of the building being listed on an inventory that's created proactively, right? It's not something, you know, so you would go around, they would identify a house, it would go through a hearing process and be deemed significant, but that's before the process of pulling a demolition permit. And I know we don't have that here, but I think given one, is that something we as a town should consider creating and or funding to create, is an inventory of historic buildings. And I understand the resources aren't in place today to do that, but if I think someone had mentioned that's something that the CPC funding can be used to support. I don't know if that's true or not, but is there a way to bake in that concept into the bylaw with a longer term strategy of creating an inventory? And that's probably a bigger scope for the discussion. But a lot of towns have something like that. They have their inventory of historic buildings that sets the parameters of what's considered. So people aren't wondering, is my house historic? I don't know. The only way I can find out if my house would be considered historic is to pull a demolition permit, and that's a little unsettling. I think people want to have some understanding of down the line, how would my house be received? And so I think being clear about how that's defined and or contemplating some kind of inventory, if we know there's homes that are significant, starting to codify that in some way. And again, that's not for this town meeting, but maybe a future town meeting. But it's something I'd like the Historic Commission to discuss and think about, either in this bylaw or an amendment to this bylaw. But you know, I support the idea in concept, as do, again, all the neighboring towns have them. But I think really keying in on the time frame and that definition of significance, so that people, you know, who's going to be in the Historic Commission in 10 years or 15 years, or who's going to be the building commissioner at those times. You have to build a process that is not dependent on the individual sitting in those seats at the time. So codifying that process, being as explicit as possible, will give people the confidence they need that in 10, 15 years, if they ever, when their house is historic, that the process is clear and fair. So essentially echoing the comments that Travis and David made, but I do think we're not having an inventory or planning for an inventory makes this difficult in a lot of respects.
Thanks, Scott. Are you guys looking? I mean, I think these are all great comments, and I think these are great questions that we need to bring back to the commission to discuss. But these are not, I wouldn't say that these are brand new questions either. So these are things that we have already been scrutinizing, and so I think now we are at the point to start to make some decisions about which direction we need to take in response to them.
Great. Barney, Christine, any other additional comments or questions at this point? And again, we're going to be, as I told them, on the 7th, we're going to be signing the warrant. And I guess looking at your timeline, we'll have to touch base and see if, I'm not sure if as a committee we'll be in a position to take a position on this article, depending on what the state of it is. If you're still refining or getting clarification on language, I don't know if we could do that on the 7th, but we'll figure that out. Bless you.
Okay, yeah, looking forward to touching base, Scott.
Yep. Great.
Any other questions at this point from the board?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
So the other item we had was the MBTA Communities Act discussion. Is anyone from the planning board here? I don't know that they were coming tonight. And I think when we put this on the agenda, we weren't necessarily contemplating the feedback from the state that was shared last night. But this is a good opportunity for us as a select board to just have a brief discussion. Comments, questions on MBTA. Ryan, did you have any updates from today? Barney had been mentioning there might have been some additional legal feedback.
We don't have anything final. I do know that town council is preparing a response for the planning board that I'm sure will be shared with you on the discussions they've already had. And then just ongoing talk with council about any proposals that will be made.
Do you have any sense of what the time frame is? It feels like the clock is going to run out in terms of getting additional feedback from the state.
I would agree. I do know that the warrant will be ready for the 9th to sign, and then you have up to town meeting for the motions and the final part of this. I mean, I know we don't want to be doing this at the last minute, but there is still time, believe it or not.
So Scott, are you saying, was the question, so the HLC has it in writing in their law, I can't remember, it starts with a 7, that they'll take comments and give feedback, 30 days in advance. And it sounds like they've been willing to work with us, all along. It's just, yeah, you got to give some people some notice.
No, I'm just referring specifically to what the planning board said about pushing back and seeing if they could get a cluster strategy or strategies approved.
I see.
And I'm skeptical of that back and forth with the state and getting any kind of clear binding response that we'd have enough confidence in the time remaining. So, at some point it's the put down your pencils time and move forward with what we know will be compliant versus waiting to see, or maybe the state will allow us to do this or that. At some point we can't wait for that anymore. And I just don't know where they are in that feedback loop.
What's the when's the planning board? Are they meeting? I know they have another open. When is their
The
public hearing?
29th, is it? Yeah, 29th is.
So we will. So maybe between now and October, is it 7th that we have our meeting where we have to sign off on the warrant?
Yeah.
Right. Maybe we can get an update from the planning board about, what direction they're going to go in for town meeting.
And Ryan, for the signing of the warrant, in the language that's needed for that article, do the scenarios have to be specified?
They do not.
Okay, so it can remain a little bit open on the 7th in terms of if we don't have a clear answer on a particular strategy, it's not like October 7th is the drop on that one.
Correct. Like most bylaws, you can refer to a place where the bylaw will be finalized and published for review prior to town meeting in a warrant article. For the motion, it obviously has to be very specific. And I would say the earlier you can get to that final draft, the better, but I understand the circumstances.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so we'll see how that evolves.
And when will the warrant book actually be published, Ryan? If the select board wanted to take a position on the MBTA Act proposals, what's our drop dead date for that?
When you sign it on the 7th would be your last chance to recommend any of these articles, any of the 4 that are currently pending in the warrant booklet,
Okay,
which isn't as pressing as it used to be when you would mail it to every home, but it will be the reference document until town meeting.
and then the motions handout will be provided a couple of days will be run off a couple of days before the special town meeting.
The earlier the better, yep, because it's
Okay,
Gretchen, me, Aubrey just printing on a printer, so
yeah, okay,
and if we need to do 1,000, we're just gonna pray that we have enough ink.
yeah.
Oh, okay. You guys don't send those out to be printed, huh?
We try to save money everywhere we can.
Okay.
They'll hand deliver it if you really
I have.
want it.
Sometimes that's a mistake.
But I would say that relative to when we take a position and what position we take, we don't need to decide that now, but I think we've already expressed, I don't want to speak for the select board, but my belief is that we've expressed support to comply.
Yes,
So that means we want a solution, not a no vote. That's what we recommend. Because of what happened last night. Prior to last night, I think, at least my thinking was, we could take a position on cluster, scattered, and single site. There would be reasons to support or not support any one of those. Now, if we're at single site and it's site A, B, C, D, or whatever, I don't think we can do that. We can't do that. Like, we can't say we like East Street, we don't like, Rutland. Like, we can't do that. So I believe, and this is just for food for thought for when we get to that point, that we're going to have to just figure out a way to indicate our support for a solution, but not one specific solution. And I don't know how we do that exactly in the warrant book.
I mean, it might just be passage of this article. I mean, at the end of the
Yeah,
day, it's going to be
right.
passage of the article. And we could put some language on that
Right,
so that Carlisle is in compliance with it, blah, blah, blah. I'm
right.
sure.
I mean, that's what we have to think about, right? So I would, that's what I urge us to, we need to make it clear that we support compliance. Like what I said earlier to, to Wayne, the cost of non-compliance is not something we as a town should embrace. Not following the law is not something we should embrace. We don't like the law is stupid, blah, 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 but it doesn't matter. It's the law, right? So I think, thinking about that and how we craft that, that's my recommendation.
yeah, makes sense.
Hey, Ryan, hold on. I just have Brian Waterson is looking to get into the meeting.
Just
It
let
looks like he just got in.
Okay, great.
We're gonna do
Okay,
the
so
ballot.
we'll think about language for that, David, for between now and the next meeting, and that can be a point of discussion on the 7th.
I agree.
Sorry, Barney, you were saying? I didn't mean to step on
Oh,
you.
that's okay. I was just noting on the agenda that we have the language for the ballot question.
Yes. No, I know. We're gonna do that
Or
next.
Brian, okay.
Yep. We still got a few minutes before Brian, but okay, I think that's probably enough. We'll certainly be getting more information from the planning board and MBTA communities, and we'll certainly forward that along to everyone, and that'll be certainly a topic of discussion at the next meeting. But let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the town election fire station design ballot question approval. So this is if the fire station article were to pass at town meeting, it would be a debt exclusion, so we would need to have put it on the ballot. And in talking with Ryan, we could have an election on November 4th, which is Election Day. We have nothing else going on, unfortunately, but we could have the election that day, and we would need to approve the ballot question tonight. And again, this is only if the article passes at town meeting. So Ryan, do you want to provide more context?
I do. So in order to have exempt debt, which I strongly recommend we do for a project of this size, even the design, because of the strain it would put on the budget, you do need to have a debt exclusion vote. So the argument for going as early as possible is to give you as much room after the approval in the election to do the design with the idea that you would be going to the Springtown meeting with bids in hand for a project vote. So the only way that we'd have a chance at that is to give as much space as possible. If you remember the conversations with Neil and Tecton about design time, the more time you can give them, the better. Then if you look at the calendar in November, you have the Veterans Day holiday falls on I believe a Tuesday this year. And then you're running into Thanksgiving week. So originally we had said, just to give you some space, December 2nd for potential election date. But if you really do want to get ahead, especially with the holidays, then we're recommending or giving you the option to go as early as possible. So we would like to get your feedback on that, and it would be good to decide that tonight if possible. And then the other part of this is if you want to go on the 4th, November 4th, you need to approve the language 35 days prior to the election. So that would be tonight. And the language is vetted by council, approved by bond council for this particular project. So really you're just approving it with the ability for council to amend it to make it legal.
But my feedback was, I think it's good to have these elections in close proximity to the meetings themselves. I think pushing this to December, taking the timeline out of it, and allowing a month to pass before you're asking people to go to an election where there's no other, that's the only item on the ballot. I think you'd get less turnout overall for something like that versus if we can fast follow the actual meeting. So, and then again, when you look at November, doing it the following week doesn't really make sense with Veterans Day. We can't do it on that day. And then we're into Thanksgiving. So, to me, this is a good approach, and it's something that at the town meeting we can communicate to people, and it's top of mind and it's immediately happening.
So there's nothing, Ryan, there's no state, local, or federal election thing going on. Is November 4th National Election Day?
It's not this year, but that is typically the day, yeah.
I mean, is there election days? Or there must be election days for this year, right? Every day, every year on election day, right?
But not in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely, like, if there wasn't for this on November, well, regardless of this, there's nothing going on in November 4th that would make us have to have a election day.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So I lost a little bit of the thread here. Are we saying December whatever 2nd is the date because of Thanksgiving and veterans and so forth?
That would likely be no, I think what's being recommended is the 4th. The next viable date would probably be December 2nd.
Right. So the 4th, but is the 4th too close? I mean, that's the question. Is it too much on the heels of the town meeting?
Yeah, it'd be the day after the night meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've never had that before, right? We always space it like a week. We let it marinate for a week, basically.
Are
It's just
you
an unusual.
advocating that, David?
No, I'm not. Well, no, I'm not advocating anything yet. I'm just saying our practice, whether it's in April, May, November, has been to let whatever issue requires a town vote marinate for a week after the town meeting vote. I'm not sure that that's needed, but that's like a thing, right? And in fact, people who don't go to town meeting, maybe learn about it more slowly. Like they won't learn about it like the next day. So the second question, I guess, is why Tuesday? If it's not a national, if there's no national, local, or state election, which is whatever by whatever laws is a Tuesday, why do we have to adhere to a Tuesday? Is there anything that makes us have to adhere to a Tuesday?
No.
Okay, so if we remove Tuesday from our mental calendar, I don't think having an election or a vote the day after we've had town meeting is a good practice. It just doesn't give people enough time to, those who didn't go, whatever, it doesn't give enough time for people to absorb the information. I take it we can't have it in the 11th, but that week, the week of November 10th, is there any reason why we can't have it like some other day that week?
Like Wednesday, the 12th? Is that where you're?
Yeah, sure. I don't care. Yeah,
Or Monday, the
Thursday
10th?
or
Well,
Thursday.
probably not Monday if people take 2 days off because Veterans
Right.
Day.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, the 12th or the 13th, I would say, just because a week is a good amount of time. A week is enough time where I'm not saying it's like, cast in stone, but our practice has been about a week. And what that affords people is it puts a little airspace between the actual town meeting and the vote. And, it's not so much time that they forget about the issue.
And the
But it's
mosquito
enough time to think. Yeah, get a mosquito. Is the mosquito publishing
for that
on
to
the?
be out.
Is the mosquito planning to publish on the 7th or whatever that date?
Well, I assume they're going to publish that Thursday
Yeah.
after town meeting.
Right. Okay. So given that, and then they have the weekend to think about it. I mean, that would be my view. Yeah.
It
Go
is
ahead.
November 12th is World Pneumonia Day, but it's also National Happy Hour Day.
Great. What could possibly go wrong? We should have free beer for the
Yeah,
first
there you
100
go.
people to vote.
Get the scouts to come and set up their
Right,
lemonade
right.
tables.
No, lemonade. Screw lemonade. It's national what?
Happy
Happy hour.
A National
Yeah, come
Happy
on.
Hour.
Lemonade's
And
not a
World
happy hour.
Pneumonia Day, which is
Well, we
kind
don't
of a
need
downer,
pneumonia, but
but
I
good
think if
to
we
be aware.
a free beer for the first 100 voters. I love it. Anyway, my point is that I think we should try to get the vote done not the next day and not 3 weeks from the day, but sometime in the week of the 11th, or if we really had to, we could go the week of the 17th, which somehow why was the week of the 17th rejected? Because I heard then Thanksgiving, but that's even the following week.
That's
Right?
the following week.
Yeah, it does not. It's not. That date is fine as well.
Okay. I mean, the 18th is okay, but I'm just saying we should pick a day. Let's just pick a
Yeah,
day.
Ryan, I wonder if Ashley's still listening. Did I see her? Yeah, whether Ashley, do you have any comments on the day of a ballot election?
Hi there.
Hi.
So initially I was thinking December 2nd because I wanted to ensure that it was going to pass town meeting before spending funds on ballots. However, there is a contingency that does allow, if for some reason it didn't pass at town meeting, we have the election and it passes, we could then have another special town meeting to ratify it. Hoping that doesn't come to that, but where that contingency does exist, I thought, okay, just to get the timeline up and get the design timeline as robust as possible, we can bump this up and just bank on, we're going to order the ballots and, whether it passes at town meeting or not, we're going to have the election. So yes, with that in mind, any of the dates are available. Tuesday was just a tradition. Typically, they're held on Tuesdays, so I was just kind of staying in line with that tradition. But certainly, we are flexible and we can do really any date that works well.
Well, I would
from a
suggest
timeline perspective,
either
December
that
2nd, I
Wednesday or
think is.
Thursday after Veterans Day.
Yeah, that would work very well. I would be absolutely supportive of that.
How much lead time is there for ordering of the ballots? Do you need?
That falls kind of in line with the 35-day requirement for the language. So about 35 days lead time is what I need for ordering ballots.
So we must typically do that with debt exclusion anyway, because do we normally wait over 35 days after town meeting for?
No, but it's usually timed with the town election.
Oh, yeah, so there's not a standalone, okay.
Because
the-
we need to decide tonight on the language, correct?
For the
I-
4th.
Oh, if it were the 4th, but we still don't, if it were the following week, when would we have to?
We still need now, we still would need to do it.
So we should,
Yeah.
we
We
should do
should,
it.
I think we should get it. I think we should pick the date and get it done. Like,
Yeah.
why revisit everything? So, I mean, I think longer than a week, people forget, right? So,
Yeah,
Right.
so the 13th?
And
Lucky
check that. Anyone
When-
check it for other
Thursday.
things going on?
12th or 13th, whatever.
yeah, 13th sounds good. I mean,
13th is World Kindness Day.
There we
all
go.
right.
There you go.
There you go. Perfect. Be kind to your firefighter. Vote the station.
Okay, so we'll do that on the 13th, and then do we want to? I mean, the ballot question is pretty straightforward, I think. I don't know that I think we can look at this right now, and is there
Yeah, I think we can.
pretty boilerplate?
There's not a quorum for the election, right? It's just the majority of
No.
those who bothered to vote, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think the ballot language that's in our packet, is that acceptable to everyone? Is there any, and I see that there's no amount, so how does that work?
So the ballot question is just exempting the vote that happens at town meeting. So town meeting sets the budget and the election exempts that debt.
So if town meeting doesn't pass it, what does that do to this ballot vote?
Well, you could still exempt the debt, but it doesn't exist. So
Yeah. Okay,
it goes away.
okay.
So
So you
we'll
don't
have
have,
spent money on ballots and so forth for
Right.
this.
right, and running the election, yeah. Okay,
Well, would we incur the cost of running the election, Ashley, if it doesn't pass a town meeting? Are there some costs that need to be incurred?
Mainly just ordering the ballots and programming the memory cards. That was why I initially was thinking of putting it off to December to ensure that. But we do have the option, if it didn't pass at town meeting and we held the election anyways, there is a option of holding another town meeting after the election to see if minds have changed, there's any more support for it. So if it did come down to it where it didn't pass town meeting but did pass the election, there is an option of holding another town meeting later within 90 days.
Fascinating.
yeah.
And what's the overall, like when you say the expense of ordering the ballots, what are we talking about?
Depending on the amount that we're thinking the turnout's going to be, I would estimate between 1,500 and 2,000 for programming and ballot costs.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that can't be funded out of the project, can it? Is it?
Fortunately not.
I mean, it's not ideal, but the goal is if it passes at town meeting we have a very tight timeline to try to get what we want to get accomplished for
Right,
the spring. And so it's not ideal if it doesn't pass, but I think it's worth the added time. As
Yeah.
opposed to waiting till December. It just seems too long.
Well, let's go through. So if it passes, to your point, Travis, Scott, if it passes, you want to get the vote done quickly so people can move forward, right?
Yeah,
If it fails, I just want to go back to what Ashley said. If it fails and we don't have, let's say it fails and we don't have a town election, then it waits to another cycle. That's the end of that, right?
Yeah.
But if it fails, but we've got an election and people go to the ballot box and they vote yes, are you saying that that somehow catalyzes a possibility of a do-over? And is that a majority or a 2/3?
That would be a simple majority on the election.
Okay. So that sounds like a decent insurance policy anyway, right?
Yeah, with the.
Be an
town-
unusual circumstance.
Yeah,
Wow.
Past town meeting and then people said,
Yeah,
oh, we really want
right.
it.
I mean, we've had the other way, right? Where it passes town meeting
Right.
and it fails at the ballot box because the people who don't like it didn't bother to show at town meeting, but
right.
they went to vote. Anyway, it's an intriguing. I never thought about that, but that I don't know. It sounds to me like it makes sense to go ahead and book the election and have it regardless, and then see where things are.
Yeah, and I think we should feel, I think our attitude should be positive, and that we're expecting this to pass at town meeting, and we want to make sure
Right.
then we have the override vote as soon as
Right.
possible. So
Not really an override, but yes.
All right.
Excuse me.
So are we thinking the 13th or the 12th? 13th, is that
November
Sure.
13th.
that's
Yep.
Thursday, correct?
Thursday?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the question tonight is, do we move the text in the election, the proposed motion,
Yeah,
which I think is,
I think so. I'm happy to move
Hmm.
move to approve the ballot question below, subject to review by town council. Do I need to read the ballot question itself for the motion?
I think you just say as printed in the packet.
As printed in the packet.
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
I'm sorry,
Arnold.
hold on a second. I'm sorry. Can you just amend, Barney, please, the motion to place it on the November 13th special town election ballot?
Okay. I move to approve the ballot question below as written in in tonight's packet, subject to review by town council and to be placed on the ballot on Thursday, November 14th.
13th,
13th.
Oh, sorry,
13th.
November 13th,
2025.
2025.
Thank you.
I second.
Any discussion? We'll do a roll call.
Arnold, I.
Modell, I.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, I.
Triola, aye. Okay.
Okay,
Great.
to explain that tedium to the board, all of these votes get documented and sent to bond council and we have to borrow. And if they're not accurate, we have to go back and do them. So that's why we're trying to be correct. That's it.
And was that
Yep.
adequate? Okay, great.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the school committee 2025 goals and update. And again, as I mentioned at the outset of the meeting, the update and discussion on anti-discrimination efforts will be moved to our next meeting on October 7th. So Brian has made it in the room. Welcome.
Good evening,
turn it over
everyone.
to you. I know you, the school committee has met at least once since the school year reconvened. So take it away.
Okay, happy to do so. And I just want to make sure, can I share my screen to run through some slides? It says I need permission.
Ryan can do that.
All set.
Wonderful. I'll cue this up. All right. So tonight, what I just want to give everybody an update on are some of the happenings as it relates to both the Carlisle School Committee as well as the Concord Carlisle School Committee. I know you all know who I am, but just for the benefit of my role this year, I am the chair in Carlisle and the vice chair in Concord Carlisle. And I do just want to say, as we kick off another school year, both districts are just very fortunate to not only have wonderful educators, wonderful administration, but of course, two great superintendents in Jim O'Shea and Laurie Hunter. And I just wanted to acknowledge that as we go into this meeting. So we are moving the DEIB and anti-hate updates to a later meeting for tonight. I just wanted to touch on school committee goals in both districts. I'm not going to go through everything thoroughly. You can read about that in the Mosquito, but just some of the things that we're going to be working on that I think the select board would be most interested in, and opportunities for collaboration. And then it's very early in the budget season, but I did just want to provide a few updates as it relates to the budget process in both districts. So the Carlisle School Committee has 6 overarching goals this year. The first, elevate visibility and understanding of student achievement. This is very much around, looking at assessment data, looking at data that comes out of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. Of course, getting updates on special education. But I did want to let the select board know that just like we did last year, we will be looking to coordinate a tour of the school while school is in session, so that members of select board, FinCom, we do have some new school committee members, can really just see Carlisle in action. I think a lot of us go into the auditorium for the likes of town meeting, maybe into the cafeteria, but just really understand how the space is used and some of the unique things that are happening there. We're also looking to deepen school and community partnerships. So I'll talk about some of this in my next update, just in terms of work that we're looking to do, not only with Concord, but also with the Carlisle Belonging Collective. The Belonging Collective is what we call the PTO, CPAC, Carlisle Education Fund, WBYC, and the DEI-CAC. That's sort of all of those different groups working together. And the school committee wants to make sure that all of those groups are working together, and we are working on initiatives related to DEI across the community. And this year we do have a new president of the Carlisle Teachers Association, and David Zuckerman is really interested in partnering along with the PTO and just community-wide events that get the teachers more involved, so that all members of the community have a chance to get to know them. Of course, the budget is always a big one, and I will talk more about the budget in just a little bit, but hand in hand with going through the actual budget process, similar to how Concord Carlisle reports on the budget, we are looking to align by the DESI 1000 codes in Carlisle, so that when we're giving our presentations, you're hearing similar information from both districts. What the DESI 1000 codes mean, they break everything, sort of their chart of account, the parent level being 1000. So 1000 administration costs, 2000 teaching costs, 4000 maintenance costs. And so that way it will help everybody just see trends between the two districts. Also, and this is coming from feedback that we received at town meeting, I know in the lead up to town meeting previously, the school probably did a better job of telling the story of the school in the lead up to town meeting. And we're going to make sure to focus some effort on that ahead of the spring town meeting. This one probably impacts the select board the most. Further collaboration with town government, definitely making sure that we continue the conversations as it relates to facilities, as it relates to shared HR. And just like we did last year, we would love to have a couple joint meetings with the select board over the course of the year. This next one, set a clear strategic direction through FY 2030 that addresses enrollment shifts, staffing, and facility needs. Every 3 years, the school needs to put together a strategic plan that gets submitted to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So that is on the docket for this year. But as we are also looking at the potential for a new administration model, perhaps not having the two principal model going forward, as we also think about the potential enrollment impacts as it relates to MBTA zoning, and just, I think, increased enrollment in general as we start to see more and more houses turn over in this town. We felt that this would be a good year to just really think about the needs of the district and where we see the district going between now and 2030. And then lastly, we will be working on governance as we always do, reviewing policies. I think this year the interesting policies, besides just reviewing the normal ones, would be a cell phone policy. Whether that's something we take up on our own or it's sort of brought upon us by the Commonwealth. Also potentially an AI policy, and looking to hand in hand with this, have a mentoring program for new school committee members, and making sure that they're getting the support that they need in their first year or two of service. I'm going to continue on, I think, to the regional goals, and then maybe I can pause there for questions, and then we can talk about the budget. As we move over to the regional goals, one thing I did fail to mention for Carlisle is we're also been thinking more and more about where are there regionalization opportunities, and I want to emphasize that that's lowercase r. I'm not saying a K-12 regional school district, but are there opportunities, whether it be special education services, whether it be buses. Those are, a couple examples, and whether it's Concord or with other towns that are surrounding Carlisle, are there opportunities where we can share certain services in order to have in order to positively impact the budget. I'll just move on to the region. These are sort of higher level goals. It is a very new school committee at the region. 3 people out of the 7 are in their first year. So we wanted to be a little bit more conservative with our goals. We do have a budget goal again: ensure transparent, collaborative, and fiscally responsible budgeting that aligns with district priorities and earns public support. Something that we're piloting this month and next month are budget workshops for the school committee. So the new members had their first workshop in September, and we will all have another workshop as part of our meeting in early October, just to make sure that everybody understands the basics and speaking the same language, understanding the nuances of things like circuit breaker funding, so that we can be as informed as possible when we are talking about the budget process with our communities. And then hand in hand with this, working with the FinCom in both Concord and Carlisle, to work through a FY27 budget that meets guidelines. Communication and community engagement. This is something that the region has gotten a lot of feedback on recently, and looking at how we can not only get the message out about what's happening at the school, but to have more dialogue with members of the communities. We've tried coffees over the past few years. Unfortunately, they're poorly attended generally. We will take another stab at that, but we're also just thinking about communication in general and how to get that messaging out. Policy, of course, is something that we're always looking at, and we will be reviewing our policies, particularly with a lens of equity, inclusion, safety, and anti-Semitism and hate will be some of the things that we are thinking about as we're reviewing our policies. And then our last one is related to the superintendent evaluation and student outcomes. The region's a little different than Carlisle. In Carlisle, we evaluate Jim on an annual basis. At the region, Lori gets evaluated every other year. So she was evaluated at the end of the last school year. But we will be working with her to change the way that she reports on her goals and making sure that we're getting quarterly updates on goal work and the evidence that goes along with it. Just because, as we all know with our goals, a year goes by quickly. So I know I ran through that quickly, but those are the things that both districts are focusing on in terms of goals. Scott, do you want to take a moment for questions on those, or should we run through the budget piece and then just have a broad
Yeah, let's
question?
do the budget piece,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
sounds good. Just bear with me as I swap over my notes.
And Brian, do you think copies of this could be sent to the select board afterwards?
Definitely.
Great.
Yes, I actually meant to do that, and then I was breaking the presentation up into two, and
No
work
problem.
suddenly got in the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so just in terms of CPS, in terms of the timeline, really in both districts, the budget process begins around now or in early October. And so Jim will be working with the elementary school principal and the new director of student support services, as well as the business consultant, and he will do the first sort of collecting of data, and then I will start to meet with him and begin to understand what the numbers look like in October. In in our meeting on October 15th, the school committee will also review fees for the upcoming year. I don't know how familiar you all are still with this, but there are 4 key areas where the school district charges fees. This is a way of essentially bringing in funds without having it all to fall on the budget that goes to the town. And it does bring in about $250,000 each year. Those fees are for preschool, both half day and full day at the integrated preschool, which has up to 15 students a year. It is a kindergarten fee. We are one of the few communities that around us that are charging for that half day kindergarten. It's nearly 100% of students who are doing full day kindergarten. But for this current year, that is a $2,500 fee that gets passed along to families. We still have the 7th and 8th grade bus fee, which is $425. And then we have fees for participating in sports. And I call this out just because it is the desire of the school committee, especially with certain fees like kindergarten, and I would say the bus fee is the next one or equal to. We would like to see us eventually be able to reduce these. We're conscious that we have residents in town that pay a substantial amount in property taxes, and then to need to layer on the bus fee and the kindergarten fee. We would like to ultimately reduce that, but we have not been in a position to do so. So we will be looking at that in October. The November 12th will be the first budget presentation to the full school committee. The December 10th will be our budget hearing. And then we expect the school committee vote to be January 14th. As a reminder, the school committee meets on a monthly basis. And hopefully we don't need to shift things out by a month, but this is what Jim and I feel confident with at this point. Some things that I do just want to mention. I don't have too much in terms of leading indicators for the Carlisle budget, except as a reminder for the FY26 budget, we did take an additional 250K that we had in those student revolving funds for those fees that I just mentioned, and applied those to FY26. We are not going to have similar funds available for FY27, so we won't have that offset again this year. And at this point, we don't really have an update in terms of out of district. We have 5 students that are out of district this year in Carlisle across 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We would expect at this point that the number would be consistent for the following year, but again, it's just too soon to tell at this point. Turning to the high school, on October 1st, this is when we look at the enrollment between Concord and Carlisle, and we set the assessment for the following year. And I'll talk about that in just a moment, but we will know that number officially next week. November 5th the Assistant Superintendent, Bob Conry, will be presenting a draft capital plan to the school committee. December 17th is when the budget will be presented. January 7th is the hearing, and then the school committee vote is expected on the 4th of February. In terms of drivers, I just mentioned that assessment. Based on preliminary numbers from last week, this district is forecasting that Carlisle's share of the enrollment is going to go up by about 2%. So this current year, the assessment was 23.3%. The year before, 23.5%. Next year, so the enrollment this year, which impacts the FY27 budget, Carlisle is 25.16%. And so just to put that into context, if we took this year's budget and applied the assessment, it would actually mean a $637,000 increase to Carlisle. That's based off of this year's budget. But I bring it up now, and I've mentioned it to James Cataccio as well as our liaison on FinCom. Just a heads up that the assessment is going to be higher for Carlisle next year. It then drops back down the following year based on the forecast, and then it kind of goes up down by smaller amounts for the next few years after that. So while that is some bad news, some of the positive news is that the debt service will decrease. The high school is forecasting lower out-of-district tuition because of the number of seniors who are out of district this year, who will be leaving the district. And also there will be an increase in non-resident tuition, especially as towns are tuitioning in for some of the wonderful special ed programs that Concord across all elementary, middle, and high school levels have available. My final slide, and then I'll take questions. The amenities building. I gave all of you a brief update, I think, in August. As you know, Concord did not approve the borrowing in the special election. So in terms of next steps, we are looking at community preservation funds from both communities. We needed to move quickly because even though Concord's town meeting isn't until April, their deadline for community preservation applications was last Friday. So we hurried up and got that submitted. We put it in for what we would consider to be the full amount for Concord. And it's obviously too soon for feedback. On the Carlisle side, we will work on that. Obviously, Carlisle supported it last year in the town meeting, and we are quite grateful for that. But unfortunately, it does look like we'll have to go back and talk to the community once again as it relates to this project. I've continued to have conversations at the state level. Unfortunately, there are just no other sources of funding that have been identified at this point. But we are also turning our attention to foundations and looking to see if there are any foundations in Massachusetts. We have a list of about 40 that we're working through to see if any of their missions align with this, and if that might be if we might find some opportunities there as well. So that's the current bit will be amenities building.
Brian, how
So
much the CPA request to Concord?
so they requested 1.4 million. And the feedback from the residents, a lot of residents in Concord, is they knew that Concord had this money available in CPA. And so the preference was, rather than borrowing, to go that route. So I do think that, assuming their committee, approves the application or approves a portion of the application. I do think that will be successful in Concord town meeting. The good news is this year it's back to normal. Concord goes first. So when it comes to town meeting, so we should know exactly what's happening down the road.
Good, thanks.
But just to underscore, from a budget standpoint, our second biggest line item before anything happens is going to see basically an 8% increase over last year. So that's going to be a challenge that we're going to have to work through in the budgeting process, and we're going to have to work through the regional school committee as well, just to see what influence we can continue to have on their budget and their planning. I think historically it's still, I mean, contextually, I think that we're still, even at the higher rate, we've been at generally a lower rate recently. So we've been benefiting from a lower allocation in general. So, you know, it'll be interesting to model this out though and see if this is truly a 1-year blip and we have confidence in that. That informs maybe a different strategy to manage it versus if this is going to be a continual allocation increase.
Yeah, and I can say that Bob Connery modeled it out for about the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And I can share those numbers. He did also point out that in his last district which was a regional district that he worked in, the assessment was based on a sort of
Rolling
4 or 5 year average. You know, at some point we may consider whether we want to relook at that agreement, but that's not something that would get done for next year, just to be clear.
Right.
Yeah, I would say we've looked at that before. It's generally brought up by Concord when they feel that smoothing will benefit them, and rejected by Carlisle for that reason. But I mean, broadly speaking, anything that's under 25%, which it is presently under 25%, is historically low, you know, by our standards. And fair is fair. I mean, nobody wants to pay more than they need to, but I would make a pitch for the region here that for a town the size of Carlisle to have the quality of secondary education that it gets through the regional agreement at its tiny population is a bargain. I mean, if we, with our 300 students in the high school or whatever, had to build a high school, it would be like crazy expensive, just crazy expensive. So it's a good deal. And the other thing I would say is that oh, that's enough. I think that's enough about that. One more thing to say, sorry, is that I've run this analysis many years. If you look at the kindergarten through 8 cohorts, you get a pretty good proxy of the next 12 years of assessment, or next 8 years, I guess. You don't need like a lot of fancy math. Some kids go to private school, they come back, some don't. But in aggregate, if you just look at the census over the K through 8 populations of the 2 towns, you can model the future assessment ratios pretty accurately, like 90%. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as long as I'm still talking, I'll reflect. So first of all, Brian, I was given some wise advice many years ago. Don't chair the CPS and be on the region, which you clearly didn't take. So God bless you.
Sarah Wilson gave me that advice a year ago, and I was like, oh, you know what? Let's give it a go. And
okay, well, good for
we'll
you.
see. Yeah, this may be a one-time thing.
So just to hit on a couple things that you mentioned, I think the idea that school committee members, whether they're regional or Carlisle, to get education on the budget is a great thing, because collectively, schools is, you know, almost 2/3 of the budget. And so knowledge of finance, knowledge of budgeting process, I can't emphasize enough that, you know, any training and anything we can do, or the FinCom can do, or I'll speak for Ryan and Kelly and Sandy, and, you know, anything we can do to help you understand that and get your people, you know, you're a pretty budget savvy guy, but get everybody up to speed is well worth it, because everybody needs to understand not only the budgeting process itself, but how the school budget fits into the overall, you know, budget. So that'd be my pitch there. Secondly, on the budget, again, a process that has worked well in the past is to engage the liaisons, the select board liaison and the FinCom liaison early. That is to say, prior to, in the making of the budget, not necessarily the presentation of the budget. So, who is this year the select board liaison?
Scott.
Yeah, I'm the liaison.
Okay, there you go. You have a perfect candidate, a guy that well knows it. I just think it would be great if your process enabled early meetings with Scott and whoever the FinCom guy is, to, understand it and guide you and give you some guidance before it's socialized. Because once it goes to the broader community, that is the school community, the school committee, and then beyond that, it's more difficult to shape those arguments. The third thing I want to mention is your comment on regionalization. And I wholeheartedly agree. And I think we're very focused on regionalization with a capital R, which is the high school. So that's kind of taking care of itself. But I've long advocated for little R regionalization at the middle school level, and particularly SPED, where it's kind of a reflection on a current debate, which is about autism and spectrum stuff, that's happening at the national level. As we've gotten more precise in our evaluation and remediation or for various learning disabilities, we become more with a finer kind of lens. We found that students need specific remediation, and it's the curse of the small scale that Carlisle has, where you may have one student that has a specific condition where we can't afford or justify a dedicated resource to address that. And therefore we get pushed to an out of district solution because we can't do it. But if we could leverage that into Concord, and we could do Westford anywhere else, but we're close to Concord and our kids will go to the Concord High School. So it makes perfect sense to say Concord's 3 times Carlisle. Why don't we cluster those and see if we can do something? And I've been frustrated in my time in the school committee that there wasn't an easy mechanism to take a Carlisle kid and push him or her into a Carlisle group, a Concord group that's already provisioned for that at some cost. It would be way cheaper. So I believe that firmly, like emotionally, but also from a financial standpoint. So I want to make that.
And I will say that the last academic year, we did have our first student tuition in to Concord, and it is something that both superintendents are interested in doing more where it's the right fit. It's not always the right fit, but especially knowing that there's then an increased likelihood, again, if it's still the right fit, that they are in district once they get to high school.
Right.
Because once you go out of district in elementary or middle school,
it's hard.
you're probably staying out of district.
Right. So I'm glad you say that. And again, just from my personal standpoint, but also from the fiduciary of the select board, I completely agree that that's a great place to start on that little R regionalization. So thank you.
Yep.
David, we're running short on time.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Any quick comments or questions for Brian? And I think Brian will be joining us again at our next meeting on the other topic. But last chance for some quick questions, or of course you can always send them to me or Brian directly. We'll be talking a lot in the coming weeks. Brian, who's the FinCom liaison?
For Carlisle, it's Aaron.
Okay.
And then for the high school, it is Victor.
Yeah, I would underscore David's point about making sure FinCom is definitely engaged as well in the budget process before it's presented, because I don't know that that's been happening as it used to, and I think it's helpful. Great. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, 9:15. We're running a little bit late, but let's get to the trust fund working group. Christine had provided the both the draft charter for approval tonight and also the list of appointments to populate the committee. So in order of sequence, why don't we start with the charter itself? And then we can, once that's approved, we can move to the appointment of the committee.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
Sure. Do you have that? Good.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So just want to emphasize again, I welcome and encourage all your comments, questions, suggestions, edits. So, what you see here is truly a draft. No pride of authorship here, because I pretty much took what Gretchen told me over the course of 2 lengthy conversations and, repeated it as most faithfully as I could. So the purpose of this town trust fund administration working group, the short form being trust fund working group, is to establish the processes and policies needed for, I think an effective, lawful, and equitable allocation of the trust funds. And it's, specifically meant to carry out this scope of work, these 4 points. So big emphasis on having written policies and procedures, everything very transparent, ensuring all the actions comply with the terms of not only the individual trusts, with the original bequests, but then also any, pertinent Massachusetts general laws. And here we're most specifically targeting open meeting law. And, so we have this delicate balance. We want to be fully transparent, but at the same time, we do want to safeguard the confidentiality of any applicants. So we need to work out a process that duly considers both. And then we do also want to have oversight and guidance to ensure the funds are administered in a manner that's transparent, accountable, and consistent. I think those 3 things are all very important to the purpose of this working group. So with that as kind of the statement of work, I did want to go through the membership itself. Before I do, any questions on any of that, the scope of work, the purpose?
No, and again, for context, this isn't the committee that would be allocating the funds. This is the committee to outline all the processes by which that committee would operate.
Correct. Yes. I'm sorry. I guess I should have started with that.
No. I just want to make sure it can get confusing, like what we're approving or reviewing, but yeah.
Right. That's right. So we're just framing the processes, not actually making allocations. The composition of this working group will be 6 members total. So we're going to have 5 voting members. There is whoever the select board appoints, which at the moment is me. And then there's going to be 4 community members. We'll go through that membership list in just a moment. And then 1 member from the COA. And so the director of the COA is a non-voting member. And then the term of office is not defined. It's just simply whenever the working group delivers an approved administrative plan. So whenever that is approved, if the select board does not approve what this working group comes up with, then it's back to the drawing board and the term continues. If any vacancies do pop up, we're going to appoint a replacement. And then, I take very seriously the guiding principles for this working group. We're, going to be very faithful to equity, integrity, confidentiality, and compliance. So, again, that balance of being confidential and respectful of all information, while at the same time being fully transparent with Massachusetts general law and especially the open meeting law. And accountability, we're going to have regular reports out to the select board during our liaison reporting period. And then also, any meetings will be held in accordance with open meeting law and all public records, everything that's, documented and out there for in the public domain. So that is the charter. Any edits that I should consider there?
No, I mean, I support the charter. I mean, I'm kind of eager to get this process, as I know you are, Christine, get it underway and put these funds to use.
Can you, Christine, can you clarify something for me? So we've got the COAHS rep, so I presume, because some of the funds under your purview are in that area. What I forgot, what is do you have authority over scholarship trust funds? Or
So
some of them?
the debrief that Gretchen gave me said that there are some scholarships, but the vast majority of them are for people in financial aid.
Okay.
So
So the school committee would not have an ex officio rep or anything. They wouldn't be
no,
part of this in your mind.
so Gretchen strongly suggested that we include the director of the COA. Apparently,
Right.
they
Right, which I
have
agree. Yeah.
right subscription, not just because of what they represent, but because apparently they do have special subscription resources that tells them, you know, who has state aid, who qualifies at the state level as being
Okay.
in financial need. That there are certain resources out there where, you know, applicants may already be in a system, and the director will have.
Yeah, I think that's
visibility.
a good idea. My question is more, does school committee have some say in the matter, or those funds at the moment not in your charter? Saying yes to the latter.
Uh, there are some scholarship funds, but that is the vast minority of the funds.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Thank you. Okay.
And even those, if I recall, are not necessarily um, in like in primary education or even high school education. So they probably be more college based and.
Well, that's not really relevant, Scott. I think it's more. There are pots of money, some of which have lain fallow for decades.
Yep.
I would say because we don't understand the rules around which we can distribute them. And then there are a few that are active, where every year I think the school committee, awards some scholarships and so forth. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel on the latter category, but I just want to make sure the charter either grabs those, the intention, regardless of how we word it, the intention from my viewpoint is to gather up all the little funds that sit around and figure out what the rules are, figure out how to disperse them, put some order into it. And if possible, maybe even consolidate some of them so we don't have so many funds with like $300 or 300 pounds sterling from pre-revolutionary or whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there may be some opportunity for collaboration or
Right.
consolidation on some of
Right.
the.
So I just want to make sure that the charter, encapsulates that. I don't want to step on school committee's toes where things are working fine. Let's just make sure the things that are in no man's land are captured. That's fine. If you're happy with that, I'm happy with
Yep.
that. Okay, thank you.
Christine, I think you've done a good job on getting this working group going, and also I think your description of what the group is going to do makes a lot of sense. So I'm very supportive. Tiny little thing, but and you don't have your charter up here, but just it says something like our goal is to ensure consistency and transparency, and it should be transparency.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
I love it. Barney, you
Barney's
do a great
always-
job. You catch those things. Great. I'm supportive too, Christine. I think you did a nice job putting this together.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, there it is. Look at you, Barney. Okay. Okay.
One question I have, and I don't know, Christina, for you or for a future meeting, is I would expect once the committee to commit the funds is in place, that committee will probably have some kind of we should probably define the list of funds that they are dispersing, because I'm guessing over time new funds will be added, or we probably want to be specific about exactly what funds are under the purview of the ultimate committee versus not, because I imagine that it's not as straightforward as we would like to think in a few cases, and having documentation of that I think will be important And if new things come in, new funds are created by donations, then we can always make the conscious decision to add it to the list or not for whatever reason. But it seems like we want to create that at some point, whether that's Gretchen or your committee.
Okay. Yeah, we will certainly, I've had a summary so far
Yeah.
handed to me. It looks like just, in rough numbers, there's about 200K sitting ready to be dispersed. So, a substantial amount that can benefit a lot of people.
Yep.
But I don't have it, we've not done an inventory. So yeah, that would be, task number one. Good add there.
And again, I'm not saying this needs to be part of this charter, but I think when you start dispersing funds, having at least something that codifies which funds fall under this committee or the future committee will be important.
Right. Okay. I will definitely add that in. Okay.
It could be a legal question too. I'm not sure where that lives, but
Right.
great. Does someone want
Okay.
to?
And then if that's it for the charter, and I'm asking, anything else on the charter? No. Okay,
Why
let's,
don't we take a motion before we move on to the appointees? Let's take a motion on the charter and get that formalized.
I move to approve the trust fund working group charter as presented in our packet. Can I do them both, or do you want to do one at a time?
Let's just do the trust fund charter first.
Okay.
And as amended tonight, because we made a few changes.
Correct. Right. Okay. As amended tonight.
Is there a second?
Christine, I'll second. Christine, have you captured all those changes?
I did capture
Okay.
those. Yeah. And so I just wanted to make sure I'm super clear. I'll incorporate those into the document and then I'll send those back out for, I don't know, final review, or is it just, it's done?
It's
I think
done.
it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're saying
Great.
we're
If we voted it,
as amended
As
tonight.
amended. Got it. Okay. Very good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell,
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Triola, aye. Great, now that we have a
Charter.
a charter, let's move on to appointing. So we have a list in our packet of appointees. Christine, you want to speak to those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did place an ad in the Mosquito, or ran a notice, and we had one volunteer. And then I did reach out across several, neighborhoods and looked for, what I'm looking for is a cognitive diversity of, of townspeople who bring different backgrounds and come from all walks of life. So our volunteers are Jane Coleman Williams, and Jane has the distinction of having been named Most Honored Citizen in 2024. She's a retired school psychologist and was the Carlisle COA director from 2005 to 2006. She has served on Old Home Day Scholarship Committee and the Garden Club Scholarship Committee. And so over the years, in both professional and volunteer capacity, she's worked on a number of developing policies and procedures. So I think she's going to be a great addition to the working group. Maureen Hoda was recommended by somebody else in town. She has lived in Carlisle for 11 years. She's a patent attorney, and her background is in, a number of different medical expertise, but she just brings an informed perspective. She is part of the CPS DEI Community Advisory Council. She has worked on Carlisle Race Amity Day every year since 2019, and she has organized a Carlisle specific fundraiser for Doctors Without Borders work in Gaza. And then she has also been active in the Concord Carlisle Foundation Allocations Committee. So she has relevant volunteer experience here in town, and just an excellent professional background as well. And then the remaining two members, Ed Heald is former financial professional, financial planner, and retired in that capacity. So he brings a number of decades of experience with financial planning. Wendy Gilden is in the finance department over at Emerson Hospital. And again, I think that she's someone who always has good ideas. She speaks up at meetings. She was in the Friends of the Library, which is how I knew her, and just always has a really practical point of view and sort of a let's dig in and roll up our sleeves kind of mentality. So I think this is a really great group of volunteers. They have very diverse backgrounds, and I think they've all been very active in our community. So I think they're really going to care. They've got a long-term vested interest in Carlisle. So I think this is a really good group of people. Honored to be helping spearhead their efforts.
Well, thank you for finding them all. That's not a small task. Quick question. I'm assuming that did they submit through the system? Like, do we?
They provided their backgrounds, their addresses and whatnot, but they have not filled out forms. We could certainly go do that as sort of
I don't know that we need to do that, but
Okay.
it would probably be good to, I don't know, I'll defer to Gretchen on that. And I assume they're residents and all that stuff. That's okay.
They are all residents, in fact, long-term residents in most cases. Mhm.
Okay.
And the only thing I note here, Christine, is that the motion in the packet, we just want to make the distinction that it says the following voting members, but to separate out or note that Jeffrey Katowski as the COAHS director would be a non-voting member.
Correct. Yeah, the charter that I sent it out, and then Gretchen said, one quick correction on that, and I resent it almost immediately.
Yep.
But yeah, the COA director is a working group member, but he is participating as a non-voting member.
We'll when we do the motion, we'll just make that amendment that
Yeah.
Jeffrey Katowski is a non-voting member. And then I believe it should be Estabrook Road instead of Easterbrook.
That's correct,
Yeah.
Estabrook.
So that would be the second. Edit for the record, amendment for the record. Great. Does anyone, any more comment on this? Does someone want to make a motion?
I move to appoint the following as voting members of the Trust Fund Working Group with a term to end at completion of the report. Jane Coleman Williams, Maple Street, Ed Heald, Rogers Road, Wendy Gilden, Estabrook Road, Maureen Hoda, Oak Knoll Road, and Christine Stevens as the Select Board representative. In addition, Jeffrey Katowski, the COHS director, would be a member of the working group, as he would be a non-voting member of the working group.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Did we already appoint Christine prior, or we haven't appointed anybody?
No, this is new, so.
Okay, all right, great. I'm a set.
All right, let's do a roll call.
Arnold, I.
Model I.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, I.
Triola, aye. Excellent. Congratulations.
Great.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, thank you
Oh,
very
absolutely. My
much.
pleasure.
Thank you to the new committee members who are the working group members who have stepped forward on this one. We appreciate it. All right, moving ahead, alcohol.
They all have to be, what's the right word?
Sworn in.
Sworn in. Thank
Yep.
you. Yeah.
All right, on to alcohol permit applications. What do we got? Ryan, you still out there? There he is.
Sure am. I like everyone's online energy tonight. This is great. So the alcohol licenses in front of you are pretty straightforward. They have been reviewed by Gretchen, who is our alcohol czar, and also by the chief, as is required. So they are for your approval as presented.
Great. Okay. Any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion if none.
I move, do we need to do them one at a time? Probably do because they're different, huh?
Yes, please.
I move pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 14, to approve the application submitted by Deepa Chungi of the Concord Carlisle Foundation for the issuance of a one-day special license to sell beer and wine at an event to be held on October 4th, 2025, during the hours of 11 a.m. through 3 p.m. at 201 Bedford Road, Carlisle, Mass., Clark Farm Market.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Modell,
Snell, aye.
Stevens, I.
Triola, aye.
And I move pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 14, to approve the application submitted by Laurie Cameron Eckler of the First Religious Society of Carlisle for the issuance of a one-day special license to sell beer at an event to be held on October 28th, 2025, during the hours of 4 p.m. through 7 p.m. at 27 School Street, Carlisle, Mass., the First Religious Society Union Hall and Courtyard.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, we'll do another roll call.
Arnold, I.
Modell,
Snell, aye.
Stevens, I.
Triola, aye. Great. All right, we are to the town administrator report. Take it away, Ryan. Bring that online energy.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Here's my town administrator report for September 9th, 2025. I held a coffee hour today at Clark Farm Market. This was to anticipate the November 2nd special town meeting and to hear any comments folks had. I also have another coffee hour at Clark Market scheduled for October 14th. Today's topics included discussion about the community center and how to continue to advocate for a community center or a senior space in town. Also, there's been there was one person who came today, but it's been a lot of talk lately about Eversource's work in town, especially on Tophet Road and some of the trees that have been downed around town. So we are working with our liaison and advocating for those projects, but it can be difficult to work with Eversource and get information because they are working throughout the county. And then the last topic was parking and continued grievance at the Woodward property and working with the various boards and committees on those processes. So the no parking signs for the S curve on Maple Street is something that was referred to the safety committee, but may come up to you in the future. So those were the topics today in a very spirited and robust coffee hour. For human resources reports and appointments, I have appointed since your last meeting James Mastro Giovanni as sergeant. You saw him pinned at your last meeting. Melissa Danish, our new assistant town clerk, and Sam Fisher, driver laborer for the Carlisle DPW. Melissa Danish accepted our offer to become the new assistant town clerk beginning October 6th. She's attorney and current select board member in Andover, where she served as chair, and she has a tremendous amount of experience that's necessary for a town clerk's office. She has a detailed and thoughtful approach to municipal government and brings much needed election experience to the position. She'll also be serving as the assistant to the Historical Commission, which is necessary and very much wanted by that board. And we also plan on using that position, and this is all budget neutral, to help other boards, what we call orphan boards, those who do not have dedicated staff to catch up on minutes and do administrative tasks. So this is going to be a very important position for the town. We're excited to have someone as experienced as Melissa. We're adding Sam to our DPW driver labor force. He has experience in landscape construction, truck and equipment operation, and snow plowing, so he'll be an immediate asset. And an update for you on the finance and HR assistant role that was recently vacated. We are conducting interviews next week, six. We drew 17 applications and decided to interview six to show you the quality of the candidates. We hope to have someone available for appointment, if not at your next meeting, the meeting after. And we continue to go through the processes for our police officer position, and we will update you at your next meeting on where we are with that. For department updates and information, Megan did a great job working through the open space and recreation plan that we referenced last time, worked directly with the state and got a 3-year extension on that 10-year planning cycle, which affords her and the Conservation Commission a couple years here to get the next open space and recreation plan going, in addition to finishing the recommendations from the last report. At your last meeting, you heard from a resident on Audubon Lane and authorized an engineering study. That work has begun. We've handed over all the data that we had. The engineers have met with the resident and with Jim Hall, and we hope to have some findings for you at an upcoming meeting about that engineering study, which can help you inform that decision. The town clock repair is underway. We don't have a definitive timeline for when it'll be fixed, but we hope it's soon so that people can hear the traditional chimes. I've had several requests come about when your annual town meeting date might be coming, and I'm going to continue to recommend to the board that we set these dates as early as possible. I am telling people that I'm trying to get this on the agenda for your next meeting, October 7th, so we can get a planning process in place. This is particularly helpful for something like the wetland bylaw and for the fire station planning and other things that you're looking to do. So let me know what you need for that decision-making process, and if you're willing to engage in that planning.
Can we
Town
just
meeting.
make it, I mean, how have you guys typically done it in the past? Are they just 6 months apart?
So historically, it is, we haven't had a special town meeting in the fall for a couple of years. So in my time here, it's not set in stone, but typically these dates would be set a year in advance of the meeting to help with the planning cycles.
Oh, okay.
That's not Carlisle specific. That's a best practices recommendation. Okay, town meeting bylaw approvals. Any bylaw that is passed by town meeting has to be reviewed by the Attorney General. We got feedback on the 2 that were passed at the annual town meeting. The town administrator bylaw has to go through the legislature before the Attorney General will opine on it, and that was their finding. The ADU bylaw amendment had a couple issues that were returned. One was detailing parking requirements, and the other was defining modular dwelling units. The details of that memo are in your packet and will be going and have been reviewed by council for their impact. In terms of capital project updates, the elevator modernization project is out to bid with a return date of October 17th, 2025. We had about half a dozen firms meet with our facilities department today and one more scheduled for tomorrow to review the elevator project. We had a lot of interest last time. We have just as much interest this time, so we're hoping that this time the project goes through without any issue. We have contracted with the Boston Mechanical for the brick building HVAC project, coordinating with our facilities department to schedule the actual install and working with the MFC and recreation department to make sure that its impact on programming is limited. But we do expect this to be completed before the winter. As many of you know, we had an incident at Town Hall today. To really summarize it quickly, there have been some issues with the copper and brass piping in Town Hall because of the hardness of the water. So it's causing pinhole leaks, and today that leak was identified right before it exploded is the wrong word, but really just started to spray. Steve, our facilities tech, took the brunt of it, handled it well. It actually started spraying when he was in the bathroom. So the whole team in Town Hall worked together to shut the water off. That did close Town Hall. The damage was limited and minimized. We had a plumber come in today, so Town Hall will be open again tomorrow. We have included looking at all of this piping for the bathroom renovation that is now back out to bid. So we're hoping to have that returned by the end of October. and we'll continue to monitor that piping. And again, that scope has been widened to include this. I'm going to be recommending to the MFC that any additional funding that they may or may not have be added to this scope to try to avoid some of this continued plumbing problem that we're having at Town Hall. In terms of your road maintenance, your supplemental road maintenance plan that's going on, Lazaro Paving is in town starting to work on the Banta Davis track, which you'll hear about an update quickly or soon, and then they'll move to the paving project next week and the week after. And we have a communications plan for all of the residents on the town websites and to the schools to make sure that people are tracking this. For CPA project updates, as I just mentioned, the Banta Davis track rehabilitation is beginning. We reviewed the site with the recreation department and our engineers. So everybody's on the same page. This project's going to redo the track, add some ADA accessible parking spaces and walkways, and so a couple benches. So nice project. This is partially funded by the request at your fall town meeting, mostly for some of the additional add-ons like the benches and the walkway. The Dimmitt Park study is progressing. We've signed a survey contract and are working through the details of a design contract. This will inform any rehabilitation of that park. That'll go before the Recreation Commission first and could come to you in the Springtown meeting for a potential design. That's not finalized that it would come to you in the spring, but we should be prepared for it. It would likely be a CPA request. For building construction projects, the Library Renovation Building Committee continues to work through the design process. The 60% design is now complete with an associated estimate. These figures will be reviewed by the building committee and will inform what may or may not be necessary for additional funding or changes to the finalized design. And we are working with the architect and the OPM to start anticipating the 100% documents and any bidding that's associated with it. So this project is certainly moving quickly, and we need to make sure that you're following this project and any funding issues that come up as the money for the project, mostly through donations, is moved to the town, and then we start to guide that process. For the police station renovation, the initial soil test showed little to no contamination. The sniff test came back, as I told you last time, without any issues. When it went to the lab, and this isn't surprising, there was contamination detected, but it wasn't to the level that would require the soil to be removed from the site, so the soil could be put back into the site. The only condition is we'd have to put on something called an AUL that would mark the site as contaminated well into the future. This would be much more of a problem for, say, a resident. But since we are putting a police station here and likely to have one here for the next generation or two, the AUL is a good compromise because it doesn't have the cost of removing the dirt. So that's a decision that we'll have to make. The building committee will be involved in that, and we'll let you know. But we're leaning towards marking the site with the AUL and reusing the dirt to minimize the cost and to eat less into the contingency. If you look on our town Facebook site, you will see some pictures. The inside of the police station has already begun in terms of renovation. The female locker space and the gym have been completely gutted. So this is really starting to move. So if you want to be inspired for future building projects, take a look at those pictures and or go take a tour. It's starting to move pretty quickly. There are several notifications for you to review in terms of signage around town and town common usage. Nothing out of the ordinary though that we need to flag, but that is in the report. And I'd like to end my report to you with some recognition. I mentioned earlier the work that Megan did with the open space plan, and I just wanted to highlight her stepping into the challenging role of succeeding what many of you would agree is a living legend in Sylvia. And she's quickly adapted as our new administrator and worked through that transition process while also starting to implement her footing and her mark. So while she's still very much in her information gathering phase, she's taken on several initiatives, including emergency repairs to the Cranberry Bog Dam. She's bringing a engineer out there to make sure that, as many of you know, the trail's closed right now. If there's anything we can do or anything we need to speed up in terms of emergency repairs to keep the dam in place, we're not quite yet fully concerned, but we are concerned. And then she's working with that same engineer to finalize the permanent dam repairs and get that out to bid, which has been a long-term project. She's also coordinating with the Conscom and the LSC to make sure that communication improves and those processes are being followed by the public. She extended our town's open space plan, and she's submitted a 6-month project to digitize the Conservation Commission records. That doesn't mean she'll be done in 6 months. It's what we're going to do over the next 6 months to prepare ourselves for a full digital move on these important records. And I know that's a project we've been tracking for some time. So she took on this ambitious workload with a lot of energy and without complaint. And I really feel good about her plan, what her workload looks like for the next 6 months, and just how committed she is to the work. So I wanted to recognize that to you. I know that was a big transition for the town. The Conscom is very happy. The associated boards are happy, and I wanted to make sure that you knew that as well. So I'm looking forward to working with her and you on these important conservation projects. I have included a draft agenda in my report, and other than that, that is the information I have for you tonight.
That's great. Thank you for that update, Ryan. The digitization certainly needs to happen for the Conscom records. So, okay.
Yeah, we're calling we're going to be doing some digital file Fridays. If any of you want to come in and help us, some people are going to be volunteering to help Megan with sifting through these files to limit the eventual cost or time it's going to take to scan and digitize them. So happy to have any volunteers. We're going to be assigning staff to do it, and we're going to make it fun.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Let's move on to the warrant and minutes approval. There were minutes from September 2nd and September 9th. It's going to be a busy month for
Scott,
Gretchen.
before we do that, sorry, I don't mean to make things go longer, but Ryan, there's a long piece about the bylaws that it looks like we passed at the last town meeting. And is there anything you want to say about those? Because it sounds like, or maybe this was for discussion at another time and it just got in this packet, but I just noticed that a couple of the things we passed are not, they're not approving. I guess this went to the state to be reviewed. You know what I'm talking about?
I do, yep.
Yeah.
So I mentioned one of them as the town administrator bylaw. That wasn't approved, as you would say, because it needs to go to the legislature first, and that's all they're noting in that memo. And we already knew that, and the legislature's working on passing that. So once it passes, I'm sure that the AG will also pass the bylaw. They just want to make sure it goes to the legislature first. The second one is, I don't want to call it line item vetoes, but things that they want taken out of the ADU bylaw because they don't comply with
Yeah.
with the state law. So this isn't a select board thing. This is more me notifying you where we're at with that. But the bylaws pass without those provisions in them.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Great. Warrants and minutes, September 2nd and September 9th. Does anyone have any comments or edits? Or want to make a motion?
I will move to approve the warrant minutes from September 2nd. Warrant, we don't have a,
No, just the minutes.
just the
warrant-
minutes, just the
yeah,
minutes. Yeah, I'm reading off the,
Yep.
so I move to approve the minutes from September 2nd.
I second that.
Discussion? Roll call vote?
Arnold, I.
David's still out there. Let's see.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Jola, aye.
Model I.
There it is.
And
Okay.
I'll move to approve the minutes for September 9th.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call.
Arnold, I.
Model I.
Snell, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Triola,
Actually,
aye.
can I change? I need to recuse, right? The
Yes,
ninth?
sir.
Yes.
The ninth one is the one I wasn't there, right?
No, that was
Which one? I lost track. The
the
one for
second,
the
the
library.
second, September 2nd was at the library, I think.
So is that the
Yeah.
the
September
first one?
2nd was at the library, and
Yeah.
September 9th, I think you were in and
I
out.
was at 9. No, 9 I was there. So,
Yeah,
but
but
did I approve 9? 2?
You
I should
lost your
read.
wallet.
Yes.
Right, but I was mostly there. I mean, I
Yes.
listened in. So. All right,
No,
so
we'll mark you as abstaining from the September 2nd vote,
yeah,
David.
okay, sorry, thank you. Yeah.
So the September 2nd vote was all in favor with David Modell abstaining.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. Cemetery deeds. Or do we do these? I mean, we can't sign them.
You can certainly do them at your next meeting if you'd like.
Because we'll have to sign them anyway, correct?
Yes, if there's a problem, we'll hold an emergency meeting.
Emergency meeting. Great.
You mean if someone passes away?
That's not what I meant, but I can see why you thought that.
All right. We'll take care of that at the next meeting. Liaison reports. We've had a lot of reports coming in left and right. Anything beyond what we discussed tonight that we should know about?
I met Kelly and Sandy and I met with the Bartholomew guy. It's not exactly liaison, but
Guy.
the representative from Bartholomew who manages, we met today, manages our OPEB and
Okay.
some trust funds. So, I mean, in the absence of a true audit committee, I'm basically it, and I go to these meetings and I kind of query the providers about the way they're doing things, and make sure that, at least from my view, I guess, that they're following good procedure and so forth. And it happens to be that in this particular regard, which is the OPEB and the trust funds, which amount to about $6 million total, we have deputized Sandy to be the sole sort of discretionary, authority on what she does with the money. And she's used Bartholomew, which is the leading, I think, municipal fiduciary in that. They have 330. They represent 330 municipalities, most of whom are in this Commonwealth. They have 5-point-something million under asset, of which 5 billion under asset, of which 3-point-something billion are for that municipality purpose, similar to ours. They have a whole system. So we went through a lot of stuff. I can just report that I am confident and pleased that the process is good and that they are optimizing the sweet spot of return and risk, or the old risk return matrix. Some of the funds, like CPA, may or may not need short liquidation, so you've got to have flexibility. And some other ones, like OPEB, have a decades-long timeline, so liquidity is not really top of mind. So I'm satisfied with the process. I think CPA in particular. So if you look at the buckets of money, the biggest one is OPEB, which is 3-point-something million for us. The trust fund, the biggest piece of the trust fund is the CPA. So I think it's something that, Barney, we have to think about over the term, is how much of that do you want instant liquidity versus, long-term return? I mean, that's something we should probably take up with the CPC at some point to just give guidance to Sandy on that, because there's some flexibility about the way you invest all that stuff. And because of the prudent investor law that we passed, I don't know, a town meeting or so ago, there's the opportunity to put more money into, say, equities or alternatives, a number of funds that provide historically higher alternatives, but also are possibly less liquid in the short term. So it's a point that we should think about. The Carlisle Housing Trust also has some money in that. So, but generally, and the trust, by the way, Christine, a lot of these little trust funds are in there too. So it was a pretty informative meeting. And anyway, the bottom line is, I can say because we have not, this is a broader point, but because we have not opted to formally designate either an investment committee or an audit committee, and there's good reasons for that because they would be subject to OML and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's kind of up to me or somebody who will succeed me to, you know, sit in on those meetings and really think about what they're learning and be able to report back that, at least from one person's point of view, they, you know, the process is solid and I can report it solid.
Right.
David, is there a FinCom member on
There is, and it was Mark and it was Chantola, so he said no thanks, but
Okay,
he should have been. He would normally would have been there
gotcha.
after he tattooed us for, you know, thinking about holding a
No,
anti-discrimination meeting on Jewish New Year, right? Yeah. There is a FinCom member. Yeah.
okay, great. Anybody else have anything they want to report in?
I just had a question for you, Scott, and maybe just for the, I saw the dates for the October meetings for the select board. Is there any clarification as to when our meetings are going to be in November?
So
I heard we have a meeting on the 2nd, Travis.
And third, David.
And 3rd.
first of all, the October meetings are we discussed are the 7th and the 21st. I think in the packet it says 7th and 14th. At the end of the TA report. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, Travis. We started the conversation at our last planning meeting.
Okay.
I think November, we may have, I think we're looking at maybe doing a meeting on Monday the 10th. If that, we'll see if that works for people, given that Tuesday is Veterans Day. That's when we would normally have our meeting. But it's a little bit of a tricky month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any preferences, Travis, or any input?
No, I was just asking because well, I guess around the Thanksgiving week, I would assume that we wouldn't meet, but
That's the plan, is not to meet that week.
Yeah.
The 24th, to figure out to meet after the week after special town meeting, and we're looking at probably not the normal we wouldn't do that on the Tuesday, but probably the Monday the 10th. And then the question would be, do we think we need a meeting somewhere? How do we space this out?
Yeah, I think you have to look at, Scott, you got to look at the whole 2-month period, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would lay out the 2-month period and give us a little bit of a break if you
Yeah,
can.
no,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yep.
good. Thank you.
Quick liaison report, just from the Transfer Station Action Committee. I just want to give them a shout out that goes into the minutes and the recording. But the committee was going through their numbers for this year and last year, and they are estimating, they're on a calendar year, so they're estimating that there's going to be an 80-ton reduction in the solid waste for 2025. And, the state goal is to reduce by a couple percentage points by 2030. And so we're way ahead of that because of their efforts. And the other thing I wanted to mention for them is that, the state has this program where you can submit or report on the various things that you're doing to reduce waste and promote recycling. And in the past, we've gotten about $1,500 from those reports that we filed. And this year looks like we're going to get between $6,600 and $7,200 because there was just a much stronger effort made to identify the ways we could qualify, and also because Gretchen was really helpful in completing the report. And finally, the Hazardous Waste Day has been set for October 25, and that's a Saturday. So hopefully we won't have any problems with rush hour traffic.
Are we going back to the different group than the last one?
No, we're using the same company. But I think it was more the timing, Scott, than it was the company. Because if you recall, it was during rush hour, I think on a Thursday afternoon.
And we hadn't held one in a long time at that point too, right?
Well, they're just once a year.
Oh, just once a year. Okay.
Yeah. the thing that folks don't realize is that though we're part of this group now where any Carlisle resident can go to the other communities that hold hazardous waste days and drop off stuff, and that's on the hazardous waste website. I also went to the COHS board meeting this morning, and again, I just want to compliment Jeff Katowski, who, you know, as the director, is already showing what a good job he's doing working with the team. And just as a quick example, I have to share that they're doing some new programs, including a fishing trip, which they did last weekend, and 10 people, including a couple, signed up to go. And there was an opening at the last minute, so Jeff went too, and they went to the North Shore and they got on some fishing boat that took them out, and then they ended up in the harbor. I can't remember the name of I've forgotten where they went off. It was not. It was near a state beach, but anyway, the captain on the boat and one of the participants were catching mackerel, which was pretty exciting. But that's just one example of the new programs that they are doing, and I just think it's great. And you could tell that the COA board was just thrilled. So,
Great.
yeah. Oh, forgot the other thing. Yeah, about the COHS is that you may not remember this, but they were going to do that whole health fair based on the Board of Health also hosting, a vaccine clinic. And then the Board of Health chose not to do that. So the COAHS has scheduled their own October 18th and is worked through Walgreens. And so they're going to come out at their cost, not no cost to the COA. And that's a Saturday, and they're offering a wide variety of vaccines for children up through, however old you are.
That's been publicized or not yet? I haven't read anything about that.
Just went out in the bits and bytes, that COA.
Yeah. So that's which date is that?
Saturday, October 18th.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Right. And
Good to know.
I think that's really a great thing they've organized. So.
Yeah, great. That's excellent. Yep.
I appreciate
Fresh blood is
stepping
always
up.
good.
It's good. I appreciate them stepping up and getting it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're at the end here. If anyone left, Eric, Christina, if you have any last comments, otherwise I can take a motion to adjourn.
Before you do, I just want to mention, Ryan, and maybe for Gretchen, you mentioned your town administrator report was September 9th, but actually it's the 23rd. It says the 9th on the thing, and you said the 9th, but we should correct it for the minutes that it is the 23rd.
Oh, the select board meetings?
No, the town,
Good.
the
The
TA.
TA report for today says
report.
September 9th.
Oh,
Yeah, you
Got
don't
it.
want to do all the meetings over again in September, do you?
No, and I don't want him to reread it either, so, yeah.
We'll get AI to fix that.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Hey,
move
this
we
was great,
adjourn.
you guys.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Aye.